into a rant about this yesterday, and it was so good. Not the rant, but the tweet. So yesterday, I go on this big rant on Telegram, and I'm talking about the delusional nature of Republicans. I was kind of mad yesterday. I was kind of like pissed off. I was just kind of out of sorts. And I was just thinking about how sad it is. It really weighed on me, the gravity of the situation. You think about, and you everyone voted for one thing, and we got the opposite. We voted for mass deportations, no wars. We got a war, no mass deportations. Now, to me, it is then obvious what has to happen. So the people that did this to us now have to lose. Like, isn't that, to me, that just follows like a mathematical equation. It just logically follows. Okay, these people that we voted for, they promised us one thing, then they screwed us. They totally fucked us over. They rug pulled us. They lied or scammed us, or they broke the promise, however you want to say it, so they forfeited the mandate to govern. We voted for you to do these things. You've done the opposite, so now we don't want you to govern anymore. So it logically follows to me that at the minimum, you don't vote. At the minimum, you stay home. And at the furthest extent, you vote for the other side. Because the other side is the opposition. Whatever you want to say about them, we know that they're going to hold the first side accountable. They're going to challenge and oppose and degrade and diminish the side that we voted for. And yet, you see these people on Twitter all day, every day. It's like they're going through the stages of grief. And they're bargaining. They're in denial about it. They won't acknowledge the problem. They say, well, it's not really a war. Well, it's not boots on the ground. Well, it's not nation building. Well, Trump has been talking about a nuclear Iran for 40 years. Well, and so I went off the other day about this, and I said, at the end of the day, you are not in control here. Okay? This is the new talking point that I've heard. This is what made me think of it. And pay attention, okay, because you're going to see this on Twitter, and you might already have, maybe you already have seen this on Twitter. The new line that they're all trying out that I've heard over and over again is they keep talking about the generational coalition, which has been squandered. Have you heard this one? I see this, and I've seen it with such regularity, with such frequency, that I honestly think it is a true talking point. Like, this is something they cooked up in the group chats. It's an influenceable campaign or something like that. It's some kind of paid social campaign, or it's just one of these things that is just, this is the lingo of that clique, of that faction. But I see this on Twitter for the past couple weeks. You think about where we are. We're in this war with Iran. It's like the worst case scenario. It's just going so badly because we can't extricate ourselves from it. We can't leave. Gas prices are at an all-time high. It's going to crash the global economy. And you're thinking about how bad the situation is, and all they can say about it is this generational coalition has been squandered. Trump put together a generational coalition, and it could have been used for one thing, and it's being squandered because of the war in Iran. And like that. I don't really like how they're saying that, because it almost seems like it's taking away from the other problems. Like, war in Iran is bad in and of itself. War in Iran is bad because it's going to bankrupt the country. It's another forever war. We're going to build an Israeli empire. It's a betrayal of all the promises. It's America last. Like, there's so many things you could say about it in and of itself that they will not say. They're still downplaying it. They're still minimizing it. They're still minimizing the issue and saying, well, it's not a ground war. Well, Trump is going to handle this the right way. The only thing they can bring themselves to say about it is that the war is making Trump less popular, and that will prevent someone like Vance from succeeding in the future. And that is the problem with it. Is that not the implication? They're not saying this is a deep spiritual betrayal of MAGA. They're not saying this is, in principle, a betrayal of America first. They're not saying we're doing the bidding of Israel, that a foreign lobby brought us into this conflict. We've been suckered into it for their benefit at our expense. They won't say any of that. The most they'll say is, the war is going to make Trump unpopular, and then he can't do what he said he was going to do. And so there's this hint of they're still hanging on. They're still hanging on to this idea that Trump is who he said he was, that MAGA is what we thought it was, that Trump is still trying against every obstacle to do the right thing, for like he's still our guy. His end game is still a total American victory. So that's one. I don't like that. They say, oh, the generational coalition is lost. It's like, bro, we're 1 month deep into the Iran war. Do you know how insane that is? Am I the only one that gets that? We are in the Iran war. You have the Iraq war. You had the Libyan war. You have the Syrian war. We're a month deep in the Iran war that Trump brought us into. And you're talking about a generational coalition. That's one. Number two, and here's maybe the more important point. Okay, the first one's a bit subtle. The more important point, and I tried to tell you this throughout 2024, and I've been telling you this throughout 2025, and listen closely. Okay, let me tell you a little something about that generational coalition. It isn't real. Okay, did Trump win the popular vote and the Electoral College? Yes. But what was the real generational coalition that came together in 2024? It was not a coalition of voters. The voters had nothing in common. You understand this, right? Who were the voters? It was a lot of Hispanics, and it was a lot of white people. And it was the podcast bros. It was guys like Joe Rogan, and it was guys like Tim Dillon and the comedians, and it was various people that were sick of wokeness. And it was apparently some Muslims and Arabs near Dearborn, Michigan, who were upset about Palestine. And it was leftists who sat out the election because of Biden's genocide in Gaza, and so on and so forth. But the real coalition in 2024 was happening on another strata. It was vertical, not horizontal. Okay? Or rather, you're looking at the wrong latitude. I'll say it in that way. The generational coalition was not a latitude. It wasn't a horizontal down here of Mexicans and whites and, black people that didn't like Venezuelan refugees. The coalition was up here. Different latitude, different horizontal. The real generational coalition was all of the little tech money mobilized by J.D. Vance, David Sachs, Elon Musk, Andreessen Horowitz. It's all the little tech people that wanted to supplant big tech. It's all the little tech people, all the effective accelerationists that wanted their drone companies, their AI companies, their rocket companies to get the government contracts instead of the Bezos rocket company and Anthropic's AI company and the other drone companies from private equity. It was the little tech. The other part of the coalition was the Israel lobby, good old-fashioned Israel lobby, the Jewish media that stood down and didn't oppose Trump, the donors like Miriam Adelson that donated $100 million, AIPAC, which was involved in 24, dethroning progressives and even trying to dethrone a conservative that voted against foreign aid to Israel. And it was Wall Street. It was the bankers in Wall Street, like Tim Mellon and Ken Griffin, who wanted the corporate tax rate permanently lowered, who wanted a Federal Reserve chairman who was going to aggressively cut interest rates to get the velocity of money going, to grow the economy. That was the real generational coalition. And that is why in 2024, 60% of the money that Trump raised was raised from the big donors, and it was only a third that was raised from the small dollar donors. The real coalition was a moneyed coalition. It was a coalition of the interests that wanted to see Republicans come in and take over from Biden. That was the generational coalition. Now, to the extent that there was a media blitz, to the extent that Mark Zuckerberg stood down in 2024, to the extent that there were all of these vibes, and people thought this was a movement, and we were going to end wokeness, and it was a reaction to Biden's auto pen, and whatever you want to call it, that was a farce. It was a trick. It was a show that they put on for you. They were stimulating you. You were stimming. You were watching the color store. Okay, you were watching flashing lights and bright colors and hyperpop, and you were being stimulated to go out and vote for this real generational coalition of interests. And so on the contrary, the generational coalition was not squandered. The generational coalition was used and then discarded. It was put together for a particular interest. That interest has already been served. Thank you, come again. They cut the corporate tax rate last year. They're working on the AI moratorium. Doge brought Palantir in through the back door in the Pentagon and in all the departments and agencies. And we're at war with Iran. So the generational coalition was brought together to do those things. Not, it wasn't brought together and then those things happened in spite of the real aspirations of the real coalition. No. The coalition was put together to do those things. Those things are being done. Now the voting bloc is exploding, and they don't care. They don't care because they got what they wanted. So who is left holding the bag? Who is left waiting outside on the curb? Who is left hanging in all of this? It's you. You are the sucker, the voters that thought it was going to be a never-ending Creed concert, that thought we were bringing grunge back, or whatever, that it was going to be a golden age, and there's going to be smart cities on the blockchain, and it was going to be Columbus Day, and we'd all say Merry Christmas, and we're going to get trannies out of girls' soccer. You are left holding the bag, saying, well, Mr. Trump, what about our golden age? It's not a movie. That was never going to happen, okay? And so there's something so delicious about that you have all these people, they're still hanging on. And they're still hanging on. Our generational coalition has been squandered. You got raped. Your rapist got what they wanted, and now you are left hanging, used and abused, saying, I thought it was real love. I thought it was a real thing. Wrong. And that's what these people don't understand. They say, because in their mind, the generational coalition was all of the posters on Twitter. And who are the posters? Jewish academics connected to Claremont? Next. Who are the other posters? Balding Gen X girl dads, cucks, people that care about the integrity of girls' sports, people that care about Columbus Day, people that are getting up on a stump speech at their school board meeting talking about, I'm proud to be white or something. You thought that was the generational coalition, numbnuts? They did. They thought that was the generational coalition, was a bunch of high BMI, balding girl dads and wife guys, a bunch of Gen X cucks, and they were going to put on their theme music. They were going to put on Lincoln Park, and they were going to stroll into Washington, D.C., and they were going to shitpost with an M until, I don't know, they made Heritage America come back, until they made it 1990 through science or magic. Yeah, no, I hate to break it to you, but that's not politics. That's called wish casting. Okay? That's called magical thinking. That isn't real. Okay? No, the posters are not in control of anything. They're not in control of anything. And they are not calling any shots. And they have no power. And they will never get what they want. Okay? The Generational Coalition were the billionaire oligarchs that put up the literal hundreds of millions of dollars in donations to make all this happen. And that's why they got their cabinet picks. That's why they got taken care of in the big, beautiful bill. That's why the State Department serves at their pleasure. Okay, that is how politics works. And this is something that people need to ingest and download on a fundamental level. What does that mean for all of us? It means that we need to have our own coalition. Okay, you cannot put your trust in a movement where you are the junior partner. You cannot place all of your faith and all of your hopes and wishes on a movement that doesn't answer to you, that doesn't value you, that isn't listening to you, that doesn't prioritize you. Then that is a different movement than in 2016. In 2016, the message was explicitly, this is about the forgotten men and women, and we're going to drain the swamp, and we're going to create a website called greatagain.org, and we're going to hire people from inside the country to come into D.C. and work in government. People forget that that was the thing, but it was. Google it. In 2016, the movement was premised on the idea that it was a populist takeover leveled against the deep state. It was a loaded gun pointed at the deep state, and it was the people and our leader Trump. But a lot has changed. In 2016, 60% of the donations were small dollar donors. Now it's the inverse. In 16, Trump said, I'm not taking super PAC money. I'm not taking billionaire money. I'm a self-funder. I'm going to fund my own campaign. I don't have donors with me. It's me and my son Barron, and that's it. It's me and my supporters. That was what the Trump rally was about. It was people power. He doesn't have the money. He doesn't have the establishment, the endorsements, but he had that people power, the excitement, the enthusiasm. That's what he represented. That's not the case anymore. And I tried to tell you that in 2024. It's different now. It's different. It's not the same. The value proposition is completely different. That was not the message in 24. And no one could say that it was. In 24, the message was, I'm running to get out of jail. I need as much money as possible. I need to be everything to everyone. Some people think we're getting mass deportations. Other people think we're stapling green cards to diplomas. Some people think they're getting the West Bank in a war with Iran. Other people think we're getting no new wars. Am I wrong? In 2024, he needed to be everything to everybody. That is how you get your generational coalition, because everybody was projecting onto him what they wanted. And that's why people in Dearborn, Michigan, ran a rally with him, thinking he was going to free Palestine. But then Trump would go to Mar-a-Lago and hug Netanyahu, who believed Trump was going to deliver to him the West Bank. And Trump would go to a rally, or the RNC, where they're holding up signs that say mass deportations. Then he would go on the All In podcast and say, we're going to staple green cards to the diplomas of every foreign student that comes here. He was everything to everybody because he needed every vote, every nickel, every dime to get elected by any cost to get out of jail. And so he did. And then the chips fell where they would. Cabinet members were picked, and from then on, we knew what we were going to get. It was only a matter of time. And now here we are. And these things are happening. They're deep. It started early. We got the big, beautiful bill. Everyone hated it. We got the Epstein cover-up. Everyone hated it. We got that. They tried to sneak in that AI moratorium on regulations. Everyone hated it. Now we're getting a war with Iran. Everyone hates it. Then people say, Mr. Trump, you're squandering the coalition. Trump says, the coalition? I got out of jail. What are you talking about? He is getting the benefits conferred upon him by the presidency. He is getting legacy. He is building up his legacy for the history books. He's building a new White House next to the old one. He renamed the Gulf of Mexico the Gulf of America, literally leaving his mark on the map. He has these ambitions of territorial expansion, remaking the world in his image, and so on and so forth. All the things that he's done, remaking the Oval Office, the Rose Garden, turning it into a patio. The benefits are being conferred upon him, and in exchange, the benefits are being conferred upon the oligarchs. The people are holding the bag. You see, so no, the generational coalition wasn't squandered. It was a spook. It wasn't real. It was used up like a booster rocket and then discarded because the things they actually wanted achieved their escape velocity, to follow the analogy. The generational movement propelled Trump into office so that Trump could deliver for his backers. If he loses popularity, and if, little John Doyle and all those sad little heritage Americans, if they get their hearts broken in the process, hoping and wishing and dreaming, well, that's something that they're willing to accept. And this is something you got to keep in mind. When you're talking about the world empire of the United States, they're thinking in terms of decades and centuries and in hundreds of trillions of dollars. What is your complaint, citizen, denizen of Strip Mall Village? You live in a city which is really just like a glorified Main Street with a car dealership, a Holiday Inn Express, a Walmart, an Applebee's. Am I wrong? This is where you live. And lately, you're noticing it's getting a little too Mexican. Because the Mexicans are the migrant workers in the farms near your town, or in the hospitality in your town, or whatever. And you start saying, I don't like all these Mexicans in my town. You take a number and file a complaint at the help desk. I'm inconvenienced. I'm uncomfortable seeing these brown people in my Walmart, in my Applebee's, in my kid's high school, or whatever. Do you think BlackRock, which has $20 trillion in assets under management, you think they care about that? Do you think that OpenAI, you think they care about that? Okay? Do you think Tim Mellon, do you think Jamie Dimon, who just built a skyscraper in New York City, do you think they care that you're inconvenienced? Who do you think brought them here? Why do you think they're here, and who brought them here, and who do they benefit? It's a new slave class brought in to replace the old one. You. They're being brought in by the elites. They're being brought in by the generational coalition because they make money, okay? Because that increases the profits of the oligarchs who funded the Trump generational coalition. So if you think that your provincial concerns from all the way out there in Nebraska or Iowa or Minnesota, you think they're reaching the imperial capital? So-and-so with 2 first names is mad that there's too many brown people in his neighborhood? They don't care. Because a pipeline needs to go through Saudi Arabia. Because a pipeline needs to go through the Middle East. Because the trade that goes through the Panama Canal needs to be charged and billed to a Panama controlled by the United States, and so on and so forth. So we have to think a little bit bigger. We have to think a little bit more globally. And we have to be a little more sober-minded about these things. You want to run the government? Become the government. Don't vote for Trump thinking he's going to come and save us. He's going to come down the golden escalator, which is metaphorical in many ways, rich in symbolism. He never came down the golden escalator. He never came down from his class to help us. We have to go up, okay? We have to actually ascend the escalator if we are going to take what we want. So that's the message. I know I'm kind of like, we're like an hour into the show already, but I keep seeing that message going around, and it couldn't be more emblematic. It couldn't be more definitive of how they don't get it. when they say our generational coalition got squandered. And I've been saying it in exactly that way. It's sort of sad. Your movement, our movement, your movement, my movement, to the extent that we were all part of MAGA and we have all these sentimental feelings about it, we have these attachments to it, this is all collateral damage. Getting us sentimental about it, nostalgic, wistful, emotional, that's all part of it. Getting us to emotionally invest, that's part of it. And you got to realize that in politics, there's just no place for those kinds of feelings. This is the biggest game in the world, and there's no room for crying, there's no room for sentimentality, there's no room for any of those kinds of feelings. Only calculation. So I see these sad girl dads and wife guys on Twitter. Oh, what about our generational coalition? Mr. Trump. They, honest to God, thought a generational movement spawned in response to trannies playing soccer with their daughters and Columbus Day being renamed Indigenous Peoples Day, and because Disney Plus cast the wrong character in The Little Mermaid or something. I mean, that's literally what they thought it was. A guy like Matt Walsh, or that archetype, he really drives his daughter to soccer, watches Disney Plus with his daughter, and he thinks that is the world that revolves around this, or at the minimum, the world of politics revolves around this. And it just doesn't. Sorry. It doesn't. So we have to think as an empire. You, me, we are citizens of the empire. Welcome to the American empire. We're in it. Yes, we have a global reach. No, that's not going to change. Yes, we have a massive amount of diversity, and we're going to have to live with that. Actually, we're going to have to be realistic. So we need a cutthroat mentality of increasing. You and me, citizens of the global empire, as heritage Americans, legacy, multi-generational, we have to take what is ours. It won't be given to us. No one's going to save us. No one is going to come and hand it down. We have to fight for it. We have to take what is ours. I'm so sick of all the doom and gloom. Are we going to win? Is it possible? Is America over? It's always sort of been over. We're born, we live, we die. We watch others die, we get sick. We don't get what we want. Life belongs to those. The empire belongs to those that show up and fight and win. And winning isn't easy. So that's how you have to do it. And that's how we have to approach politics. So don't get mad. Get even. Don't hate the game. Play the game. Get in the game. That's why I tell people, you want to get involved, be a college Republican, get on a campaign, be an intern in the administration, and start working your way up the ladder. I'll tell you something. Whether a Republican wins or whether a Democrat wins, there's going to be Groypers in the next administration. Because we've taken care of things. We are outcome independent. And just like Anthropic has their people in this government, and just like OpenAI has their people, and just like other people have their people, we need to have our own people. Outcome independent in the administration. No loyalty to Republicans, no loyalty to Democrats, loyalty to ourselves, loyalty to the country. That's what it really means to engage in politics. So anyway, that's that. I do want to move on. I want to get into our war with Iran. This is a little bit about where we are. I do want to get into our war with Iran. We've got some big developments for you tonight. And where we left off, we are in a stalemate in the war with Iran. Week number 5 is starting. We have been in this war now for exactly 4 weeks, and there is no end in sight. It is a true catastrophe. And we've talked a lot about why that is. The United States and Israel have engaged Iran in a joint operation using only air and sea power. They were hoping for a quick and decisive strike so overwhelming that it would topple the regime, that the masses of Iranians would rise up and change their government. And this is what the U.S. and Israel, maybe more so the United States, was counting on. But that's not what happened. The Iranian regime has proved to be resilient. And although we killed its leader and much of its leadership, although we have crippled its military and we've bombed them almost 10,000 times, the Iranian regime remains intact. And remaining intact, they still retain the capability to launch drones and missiles at the Gulf Cooperation Council nations, at U.S. military bases, at Israel, and maybe most importantly, at shipping that transits through the Strait of Hormuz. So the United States is effectively unable to achieve its strategic objectives. If its strategic objective was to quickly and decisively collapse the Iranian regime, that goal now appears to be out of reach. However, we have initiated hostilities, Iran has retaliated, and they have changed the dynamic of how the region works. By closing the strait, they have effectively seized control of the global energy market. 20% of the world's energy that transits by ship goes through the strait, and Iran is effectively controlling it via a toll. It is a drone-enforced tollway. And the countries that are allied with Iran have safe passage. And Iran's oil itself is able to be exported. And nations that are willing to pay a $2 million toll, they're able to get their goods through the strait as well. But countries that are antagonistic towards Iran, countries at war with Iran or allied with those at war with Iran, they are being attacked. And so the conflict has settled into an attritional war, where the United States is unable to complete its objectives. Meanwhile, in open hostilities, Iran is choking off the supply of global energy, which is badly hurting the U.S. economy, our allies in the Indo-Pacific, and the economy of Europe. So Trump is faced with a couple of options. He can escalate the war and how the war is being fought to ultimately achieve his objectives. He can, in some way or another, with an invading ground force, with a nuclear strike, those seem to be the only options. He can escalate the tactics and the fighting to ultimately achieve his aims, which is a regime change. They will be able then to suppress Iran's ability to attack the strait, and the war will be won. The alternative is he can de-escalate. By achieving a ceasefire or a truce, he can get Iran to stop choking off the strait through diplomacy, and this would be considered a tactical retreat and ultimately a strategic victory for Iran. He doesn't want to do either of these things. These are two bad options. If we withdraw, if we surrender, Iran is going to be able to extract concessions, and they will have won. If we escalate, the means by which we do so would be unacceptable. Politically, geopolitically, use a nuclear weapon, unprecedented, can't invade, too many casualties, not enough political capital, no morale, appetite for that domestically. So Trump is trying to find a third way out of the conflict, and we've been talking about this. It seems that he had no plan B. If he doesn't succeed, and Iran closes the strait, what's the exit plan? He doesn't seem to have one. And so as the days and weeks go by, this attritional war is hurting the U.S. economy. Oil prices are higher than ever. Stock market is having another very bad week. S&P 500 is down 500 points at close earlier tonight. As all of this economic pain is setting in, Trump is trying to figure out a third way, a way to escalate the conflict, maybe not achieving total victory, but a decisive blow, a tactical victory that brings Iran to the negotiating table so that we can achieve favorable terms for a withdrawal with dignity, a face-saving tactical retreat with honor. That seems to be the play. And how he's decided to do this is to engage Iran's energy industry in a very tactful way. So far, that seems to be the elephant in the room. The only way to hurt Iran any further without actually invading Iran, we seem to be doing as much as we can with air and sea power, dropping bombs from above, launching missiles from ships. It seems that the only other way we can escalate, short of a ground invasion, is to begin targeting Iran's energy infrastructure, which we have avoided doing so far. And we've talked about why that is. In an attritional war, the way that Iran hurts us and uses leverage against us is by raising the price of energy, by constraining its supply. Well, if we bomb Iran's energy, that only constrains the energy supply further. We take Iran's oil out of the global market, it reduces global supply, and the price goes up further. What's more, Iran will retaliate, and they will likely retaliate against energy infrastructure on the other side of the Persian Gulf, in Saudi Arabia and Qatar in particular. That will compound the effects. So you will take Iran's energy out of the market, and then Iran will take Saudi oil and Qatari LNG off the market. So it actually worsens the problem of the attritional war. And it may not even then bring Iran to the negotiating table anyway, because their regime will be intact, they'll be badly damaged, but we will be too. So it seems that Trump is trying to circumscribe how he's going to approach energy. He's finding a third way. And the third way appears to be not destroying Iran's energy infrastructure, but taking control over it. And so he's fixated on this small island called Karg Island, as you know, in the Persian Gulf. And although the oil is extracted and refined on the coastline of Iran's mainland, the actual oil is pumped out via pipeline to the island, 95% of it, where it is then loaded onto a ship and then exported. And so that seems to be the critical choke point for Iran's entire energy industry, which accounts for half of its exports. 95% of the oil, and the oil is 50% of Iran's exports. So Trump believes that he doesn't necessarily have to destroy Iran's energy infrastructure. If he can seize control over it, he can take it hostage and then use that as a counterweight to how Iran has closed the Strait of Hormuz. So to that end, 2 weeks ago, he bombed Karg Island, bombed its military assets. Not their energy infrastructure, but just the military assets protecting the island. In the ensuing 2 weeks, it seems that he's building up a military force to take over that island. Invading Iran on the mainland would be almost impossible because of the terrain, the size of Iran's armed forces, the scale of its missile and drone stockpile. If we tried to invade Iran's mainland, it might be a suicide mission. But if we can target this 8 square mile island, if we can use air power and electronic warfare and other means to shut down that island, shut down that zone, and put a military presence on it, then we can seize control of Iran's energy infrastructure without destroying it. We can say that that is a decisive victory. We can call that a tactical objective. That gives us the morale. That gives us, you could say, the political capital to leave the war with dignity, and it's a huge bargaining chip that we can use to extract concessions. We will release your oil if you release ours. If you release the Strait of Hormuz, we will release Karg Island back to you. That seems to be the play. Now, in the meantime, the United States does not want Iran to know that this is coming, that this is happening, and maybe more importantly, Trump does not want the stock market to know that this is happening. This is an attritional war. It's an economic war. And part of the economic war, it's not just about the actual scarcity of the commodities involved, which is oil, natural gas, fertilizer, aluminum, other things. It's also about perception. And so the demand for these commodities and how they value them in the present is dependent upon how people perceive the flow of the conflict. If they think the war is going to go on for a long time, and if they think this energy crunch is not going to end anytime soon, it makes the economic problems much more acute right now. If they think, however, that everything is going according to plan, and the war is going to be over any day, and that there's going to be an influx of oil next week or in 2 weeks, then without all the panic, it makes the economic problems less severe. So it seems that simultaneously, Trump is preparing the way for a major escalation in the conflict, an actual ground invasion, not of Iran's mainland, but of its islands. It's a huge risk, major gamble. There's a big risk of American lives. And it seems that that might be the only way out. That might be threading the needle between a disgraceful retreat, which gives Iran a strategic victory, and an unacceptable escalation. At the same time that he's preparing for this, he has to reassure the markets that this is not about to happen. And so that brings us to this past weekend and where we left off on Tuesday. Last weekend, Trump made a big ultimatum. Trump said on Saturday that if Iran does not open the Strait of Hormuz and end the war in 48 hours, then Trump would begin targeting Iran's power plants and its energy grid. Iran immediately replied, predictably, and they said in the event that that happens, Iran will then target all civilian infrastructure in the Gulf countries. And that's Qatar, that's the United Arab Emirates, that's Kuwait, Bahrain, Saudi Arabia. And Iran said not only will we attack their energy, their LNG, their liquefied natural gas, their oil, but we'll also attack their desalination plants, which they rely on for drinking water. We'll also attack their hotels, airports. We'll attack all their civilian infrastructure will be on the table. And in response to this news, everything on the market tanked. Gold, Bitcoin, stock market. This would be an apocalyptic conflict for the economy. Not just for oil and natural gas, but for everything. This would seriously tank the economy. So then before the markets opened on Monday, Trump said the deadline was extended by 5 days because Trump said that he was going to give Iran an opportunity to make a deal. There was going to be this peace process, and he was going to give them an opportunity to find a diplomatic way out of the conflict, and so he was extending the deadline. The news from today and this week is that on Wednesday, Trump said the deadline is extended another 10 days. And so whereas the deadline was supposed to expire today or tomorrow, now the deadline expires not on Monday, but the following Monday. And Trump said that he has made this decision because the peace process is underway and Iran wants to make a deal, and they've actually agreed in principle to many points of contention in the conflict. And this is a story about that extension. This is from the Wall Street Journal. It says, quote, President Trump said earlier on Thursday that he was pausing strikes on Iran's energy sector for more than 10 days until April 6th, so that peace negotiations can take place. Trump's previous deadline was Friday. He said the extension was at Iran's request. Iran has not requested a 10-day pause and is yet to deliver a final response to a 15-point plan to end the war, according to mediators in the peace talks. Iranian officials have told the mediators that they are interested in negotiations, but the country's leadership has yet to weigh in and give a final decision. The U.S. offered a 15-point plan that essentially would swap an end to crippling sanctions for Iranian concessions on every point of conflict, including its nuclear and missile programs and support for regional militias. Iranian officials already have demanded that the U.S. scale back its excessive demands outlined in the 15-point plan before it agrees to meet to discuss a potential ceasefire. They also ruled out discussing Iran's missile program as a starting point for the talks, and they do not want to commit to ending enrichment of uranium forever. The odds of success for a ceasefire remain low, with Iran and the United States staking out maximalist demands that are unacceptable to each other side, said the mediators. So this is where we are, and this kind of catches us up from where we are before. Like I said, you've got the state of the conflict, which we're all very familiar with at this point. We're stuck here, and this has been described variously as an escalation trap. There's a lot of talk about the escalation ladder, escalation dominance, the escalation trap. You have to understand there's sort of a logic to how conflict works. There's a political dimension to how conflict works. And what I mean by that is, for example, we go in really heavy when the war starts 4 weeks ago. We blow up Iran, we blow up their leadership, we assassinate their supreme leader, half their military and civilian leadership, we sink their navy, destroy their whole country. In retaliation, they close the Strait of Hormuz. Now, we made and took a shot to kill Iran. We went for the jugular. Make no mistake about it. This was intended to be the killing blow. This was not a nicky-nack surgical strike, wasn't a tactical hit. This was a definitive, decisive killing blow, or at least intended to be. And when they say decisive, decision to cut, to come down, they mean we're going to topple the regime. It's going to be decisive. On the other side of this blow, there's going to be a different regime. And it failed. Now that it failed, Iran has done the only thing that they can, which is to close the Strait of Hormuz. Now, and this is the problem that we're in, we're realizing we can't finish the job now. We took our shot, we missed, and now it's going to be impossible to do what we initially set out to accomplish. And why is that? Because when you try to strike a killing blow, it actually has a rally around the flag effect. We killed the symbol of their regime, and so what this does is it emboldens everybody in the regime. All the hardliners, all the people that said not to trust the United States, all the people that really believe death to America, really believe in the Shiite eschatology, they're now in control. And if they weren't true believers before, they are now. So they're dug in and they're entrenched because they are facing an existential danger. We want regime change. They are the regime. We're carrying out regime change with assassination strikes. We're literally threatening to murder all of them. So this is now about survival. This is not a negotiation, war as politics by other means. For them, this is now existential. Their literal backs as human beings are up against the wall. They're facing certain death. So they have to win or they die. A regime that has to win or die does not negotiate. They're not going to meet in Pakistan. They're not going to hang out and talk about concessions, at least not right away. They want to guarantee their own survival. And so what they've done in response to this is close the Strait of Hormuz, and they have let it rain on the Gulf countries. They're now inflicting the maximum amount of pain. Why? Why did they have to inflict the maximum amount of pain? Why did they have to take these steps? Bombing the Emirates 1,000 times, bombing Saudi Arabia, closing the strait, in many ways turning other countries against them. They have to do this to reestablish deterrence. They have to do this, in a word, so that the United States doesn't try to kill them again. The United States tried to kill them, they failed. They can't succeed now. Because with all the air and sea power, they're not going to defeat all the 200,000 Iranian Guard Corps. They're not going to incite an uprising. They're not going to be able to defeat every guy with a gun that is in control of the infrastructure and institutions of Iran. So now these people that have just survived the killing shot, they have to make sure that the United States can never attack again. How do you do that? Impose the heaviest cost possible. And because Iran does not have strategic weapons that can hit the United States, they have to do it in other ways. They have to act like a porcupine, as a weaker adversary. And they have to make it as painful as possible for everybody. They have to make it a drag. They have to make it unpleasant and painful. So that when the United States backs off, unable to achieve its goals, it thinks twice before they try to kill Iran again. They have to inflict the maximum amount of damage. But now the United States they're also in a bit of a bind. They also have to make a certain type of decision here. So we tried to attack Iran, we failed. If we now retreat and Iran reestablishes deterrence, then we look weak by comparison. And then other countries that we are actually holding in suspended animation right now by the threat of force, they don't take us as seriously. Maybe they start to do aggressive things. Maybe they start to do things. In other words, I'll give you an example. The reason that China won't invade Taiwan is they think that we will defend it, and they think that because we have deterred China from intervening. Our threat of force is credible. If they invade Taiwan, you're in a war with the United States. It's a threat of force that is credible, that is strong. You don't want to mess with us. North Korea has a nuclear arsenal. They have some ambitions of their own. Maybe they don't pursue regional ambitions for the same reason. And the same is true of other regimes in the world. The moment that the United States retreats, everybody else recognizes the calculation has changed. And what we calculated to be the threat of U.S. intervention might be less than it was before. And now they recalibrate their foreign policy, their security policy, to be maybe more aggressive, more risk-taking. Maybe they're going to test the United States, push the boundaries. As a superpower, as a world hegemon, the United States really can't afford that. And so we're sort of trapped in this situation where we don't have a lot of good options. We can't really leave here. We have to win by any cost. And what that means is there is no off-ramp. There's no way to de-escalate this without catastrophic knock-on effects for U.S. deterrence on a global level in every region. So we have to achieve some kind of credible victory. Maybe not a total victory, but a credible one. And the only way to achieve a credible victory at this point is to escalate the fighting. And this is why we say all the time, the United States is being drawn into the fight. We're not going willingly. Nobody said 10 years ago, we need a ground war in Iran. We need to decapitate Iran, and then we need a ground war, and then we need to send in troops to seize all the radioactive material. We were drawn into it step by step, working our way up the escalation ladder, killing Soleimani, ripping up the nuclear deal, calling their paramilitary a terrorist group, then authorizing cyber attacks, assassination strikes against their nuclear scientists, shooting down their missiles over Israel, going to war with their proxies, bombing their nuclear sites. And then one day you find yourself in a situation where we go for it, try to cut the head off the snake in an air campaign, and it doesn't work. And then all of a sudden, the unthinkable becomes the inevitable. All of a sudden, the only option left on the table, how do we finally get these guys? Because they just won't quit. The only option left on the escalation ladder is ground invasion or nukes. Ground invasion of some sort or nukes. We've thrown everything at this country. And it started with soft power, and then it was smart, hard power. Now it's just raw hard power. We've thrown everything at them. Maximum pressure sanctions. We've condemned them in the UN. We got together an international regime of sanctions. Again, sanction their proxies, their institutions, their leaders. Okay, then we killed the leader of their paramilitary, called it a terrorist group, shot down the... Did everything, step by step, walking up that ladder, until we did everything shy of invasion and nukes 4 weeks ago. Because we bombed them 10,000 times. We did everything, all of our standoff weapons, air power, sea power, Tomahawk missiles, some say bunker buster bombs, 5,000-pound bombs, 50,000-pound bombs. We're doing the most, doing everything. Killed their leader, literally killed their leader. They won't quit. So now, 2 options remaining. We can't get them to quit, can't win. How do we, the superpower, credibility, and deterrence on the line against what should be a far weaker adversary, how do we finally pound them into submission? Ground invasion, nuclear weapons. This is where we are. So this is where the present calibration comes from. This is the present calculation, like we talked about. So we hit Iran very hard in the opening weeks. They don't buckle, they don't bend. They close the Strait of Hormuz. They've effectively seized control of global energy. This is a humiliating embarrassment to the United States because we couldn't achieve our objectives, and now they've taken control of the global economy, and we can't stop them. Why can we not take back control of the Strait of Hormuz? Because we can't stop them from launching drones and missiles. It's impossible. These weapon systems are too abundant, too mobile, too small. They're effective, they're too cheap. Iran is always making more of them, importing more of them. Can launch them from anywhere, from a long distance, a short distance, tethered to a fiber optic cable, or using radio. They can always launch drones. The Strait of Hormuz is 10, 20 miles wide at its narrowest stretch. So it is impossible for us to open up the strait. We are being humiliated and embarrassed, and we can't end the conflict on Iran's terms. We cannot end a conflict where the terms are dictated by a far weaker power. We can't end the conflict, and the concession is that Iran took control of the strait and retained control of the strait. We went for a decisive killing blow, and they came out expanding their territory and power. They came out not only surviving, but better off. And understand that would be the result. We killed their leader, dropped 10,000 bombs, sank their navy, and somehow they expanded their control. Now they control one of the single most important choke points in international trade. Unacceptable. So Trump is left with one option: escalate to de-escalate. Escalate to achieve a favorable peace on our terms. And that is the only conversation that is legitimate here. This was determined, maybe you could say a week into the conflict, that this was going to happen. And so, like I said, this is my take on what is happening. Trump has effectively resolved that if he cannot topple the regime, and again, that became very clear within the first or second week, if Trump cannot quickly topple the regime, and if Iran will not open up the strait, and they're going to extract major concessions, even if they get a ceasefire, they're going to seize control of it, then Trump has a narrow lane to escalate the fighting, to achieve a tactical victory, to then maybe get a more favorable agreement, to get a truce, a ceasefire, and end the fighting. Maybe not forever, but at least for now. And Trump has calibrated that the only way to do that, we can't invade their country, we can't drop a tactical nuke on them, we're going to have to do some kind of surgical ground intervention on an island to take control of energy. And that's either going to be in the Persian Gulf or in the Strait of Hormuz. And it's going to be an island. And so what he did 2 weeks ago, like we talked about, I believe this was on a Friday, he seized control, or rather, he used an airstrike to bomb the military assets on Karg Island. And what that did is it rendered Karg Island vulnerable for an invasion. Karg Island, again, it's that energy hub. It has all their oil infrastructure for exporting their energy products. But in the north of the island is where they have a military airstrip, and they have a radar system, and they have an anti-air system. Trump bombed all of that, took it all offline. And then he came back the following week, if you remember, I believe this was last Tuesday or Wednesday, and Trump said, we're not going to do any attacks on Iran's energy, reassuring the markets, maybe even reassuring Iran. Then there's talk of diplomacy the next day. They say that Pakistan, Egypt, and Turkey are trying to get a peace deal together. The following weekend, after the Karg Island attack, Trump makes his big 48-hour ultimatum and says, if you don't open up the strait, then we're going to destroy your power plants and your power grid. Before the markets open, Trump calls it off, extends the deadline. The deadline approaches. Trump extends it again. And in the meantime, there's all this talk about diplomacy. They say there's a peace process. They say there's negotiations, intermediaries underway. They say that Iran is amenable to negotiations. They don't want to be public about it. They're not very trusting. All this is happening in the background. Now, the current deadline extends until the following Monday. Over the past 2 weeks, so let's say Karg Island was 2 weeks ago. In the past 2 weeks, and in the next 2 weeks, until the next deadline, this is a 4-week stretch, you have seen actually a second military buildup in the Middle East. From the time that Trump bombed Karg Island 2 weeks ago until the end of the next deadline on April 6th, Trump will have deployed another aircraft carrier into the region. He will have deployed an additional 20,000 troops, and that includes 5,000 Marines, 5,000 airborne, 10,000 other soldiers. There might be more on the way. And what all of that looks like is they're putting in place a small force package, not a big one, but maybe the biggest special forces operation that has ever been conducted, very logistically difficult, to seize one of the islands. They're putting all those pieces in place while there is a ruse, not just for Iran, but more so for the public and for the markets of peace talks. And under the cover of that story, They're building up a force posture to take over one of those islands. That's the only way that the United States is able to counterintuitively de-escalate the conflict, is to first escalate it. How do we know this? There's another story yesterday, about the size of the force package. Like I said earlier in the week, so far you've got 5,000 Marines. They will arrive in the Persian Gulf this weekend. You've got another 5,000 airborne troops that are on notice. They have an 18-hour window to deploy anywhere in the world. As of yesterday, the Pentagon reports there could be another 10,000 troops going into the region. This is from the Journal. That's his quote. The Pentagon is looking at sending up to 10,000 additional ground troops to the Middle East to give President Trump more military options, even as he weighs peace talks with Tehran. The force, which would likely include infantry and armored vehicles, would be added to the roughly 5,000 Marines and thousands of paratroopers from the 82nd Airborne Division who have already been ordered to the region. It is unclear where precisely forces will go in the Middle East, but they will likely be within striking distance of Iran and Karg Island, a crucial oil export hub off of Iran's coast. Trump has repeatedly said he will open the Strait of Hormuz with or without the help of U.S. allies. So it's a force package now of 20,000. It started with 2,200, now it's 20,000. We thought earlier in the war that you were only going to have one aircraft carrier in the region. You had two initially, the Abraham Lincoln and the Gerald Ford. As of last week, the Gerald Ford probably got hit by an Iranian missile. They said it was a fire in the laundry room. Now they're saying the damage is far more extensive. That carrier has been taken out of the picture. It's being repaired in Greece. Another carrier is being deployed to the region. A Marine Expeditionary Unit is being deployed. You got 3,000 to 5,000 paratroopers. And now they're saying 10,000 more ground forces. And what it seems like, and this is what everybody's reporting, it's not my idea. I did say it, though, right after Karg Island was bombed. What everybody now is saying is that there's going to be a major ground operation. This is being reported by sources in the Pentagon. It's in all the major papers. There was a closed-door hearing of the Armed Forces Committee, and 3 Republicans left that meeting and said, we are against a ground war, which seems to imply that they were briefed about future ground operations. Today, at the G7 summit in Europe, Marco Rubio told our allies we will be in a war with Iran for 2 to 4 more weeks. Well, what's in 2 weeks? Your April 6th deadline. So we'll be at war at least until that deadline. Well, if the deadline expires, then we're going to be at war for 2 more weeks after that. So all the evidence is pointing towards there's going to be a major ground operation to take back the island. But let's talk about that operation. How exactly is this going to work? The problem that we're facing, by the way, is that we can't open up the strait because the strait is this big. The Strait of Hormuz is like 8 miles across, 20 miles across at its narrowest point. And so Iran, they don't even have to be looking to shoot a drone from 100 miles inside the country and hit a ship going through the strait. It's also, there's 2 lanes. So you got ships going one way and the other way. It's a very narrow stretch. And then in terms of where they can actually sail, it's narrower than that. So Iran is dialed in. They've got it on lock. You can't get a commercial vessel or even a U.S. destroyer through the strait because it's that vulnerable. And it's vulnerable because Iran is a very big country with a big coastline, and they are launching drones and missiles from everywhere all the time. Some precise, some imprecise, but the target is so small they're going to hit it. Well, Karg Island is 8 square miles. So the island is not bigger than the narrowest point of the strait. If they could hit the strait, they could hit the island. And it's the same problem. Karg Island is not far from Iran's coastline. It's only, I think, 10 miles off the coast of Iran. I don't have all the precise measurements here, all the precise numbers. It's not far from Iran's coastline. So you have the same problem on the island that you have in the strait. If you can't sail a vessel through the strait without getting hit by drones and missiles, how are you going to land on an island without being hit by drones and missiles? So the plan seems to be that this amphibious assault force, the Marines, are going to land on the island and take the island. They're going to come under heavy fire from drones and missiles. They're prepared for that. The plan is to send in attack helicopters that are going to shoot down the drones, and they're going to move some of their anti-missile systems away from the other targets, the U.S. bases that have been destroyed, and those systems will be put in place to protect the island. So they will land, they will repair the runway of the airstrip, which was bombed by Trump. They're going to seize control of the military facilities, and they're going to prepare the way. The paratroopers will land on that airstrip, bringing reinforcements, bringing supplies, and then maybe those 10,000 or more other troops who will surely be deployed in Kuwait or at hotels and bases elsewhere in the Gulf, then they will be reinforcing, and a logistics supply chain will be established, and they will control the island. They will be there for a prolonged occupation. Again, if we can't shoot down all the drones and missiles in the strait, how are we going to have a 100% success rate on the island? If we can't shoot them down in Doha and Dubai and Abu Dhabi and Riyadh, how are we going to get them on Karg Island? Do you understand that Iran has destroyed at least 13 bases? The Pentagon is lying to us. Iran hit the Gerald Ford and took it out of commission. They told us about the Gerald Ford that there was a fire in the laundry room. Well, it's being repaired for 2 weeks. You're telling me that the biggest and most sophisticated U.S. carrier, which is the biggest and most expensive class of ships that we have, the Ford-class carrier, you're telling me that got taken offline for 2 weeks because of a fire in the laundry room? That's not true. Simultaneously, 13 U.S. bases in Kuwait, Saudi Arabia, Iraq, elsewhere, Qatar, they have been taken offline. This is more damage to U.S. air bases, I believe, than any point during the Iraq War. These bases have been rendered inoperable. The damage is extensive. They're underreporting the extent of it. And they're actually putting up soldiers now in hotels because they can't stay at the bases. There was an attack at a base in Saudi Arabia that killed 13 people today. There was another attack last week. It took out 5 refueling aircraft. They're allegedly shooting aircraft out of the sky over Iranian or Iraqi airspace. So here's the question. We can't protect the strait. We can't protect our military bases. We can't protect our floating base, which is the carrier. How are we going to protect an island that's off the coast of Iran? And the coastline of Iran is 600 miles. So you've got 600 miles of coastline from which Iranians are going to be launching fiber optic drones that can't be jammed. Literally have an unspooling fiber optic cable behind it connected to the receiver. How are you going to shoot down hundreds of drones flying at the island? How are you going to shoot down what may be Iran's most precise and advanced missiles that they haven't used yet because they're waiting to exhaust U.S. interceptors? The inevitable conclusion is that this is a suicide mission wherever we do it, whether we do it on Karg Island or whether we do it in the Strait of Hormuz. And they know that. Israel knows that. The United States knows that many soldiers are going to die. 20,000 soldiers are going in. Probably more than that are going to go in the long run. It's not going to be 200,000 yet. There's going to be more than 20,000. There's a population on the island of 20,000. You don't think they're building IEDs? You don't think they're armed? There's a civilian population of oil workers on the island of 20,000. We're sending 20,000 soldiers in. And what's going to happen is there's going to be a lot of casualties. And they know that. They're telling us that. They're priming the pump. That's why they're reporting it all the time. Why are they telegraphing their moves? Because they're getting the public ready. They do this. They do it all the time. They did it when we withdrew from Afghanistan in 21. They told us this story about ISIS-K and blah, blah, blah. They're doing that now. And they're telling us a lot of Americans are going to die. The Israelis are telling us Americans are going to die, but that's okay. We're okay with that. Americans are going to die. And it's questionable whether they're even going to be able to hang on to the island. Because once they take it, they're going to be under heavy fire. And the Iranians know it's coming. A couple of days ago, Iran's parliamentary speaker said, we have intelligence that the U.S. is going to try to invade an island. And they said, we are going to target all the infrastructure of the Gulf country that is helping them to do it. That's either the Emirates or Saudi Arabia. They're going to be raining missiles down. They might even hit their own energy infrastructure. They might even do that. They'd rather lose it than have the United States control it. And then they'll attack desalination in the Gulf. Then they'll attack Saudi Aramco, or they'll attack desalination in Dubai. Because this is it for them. This is an existential battle for them. They either use it or they lose it. So this is how they're thinking. If they lose this war, the United States is going to take another swing at them. They have to win and impose conditions on us. They're fighting to the finish. They're not going to let the United States take control of their energy, and then they're negotiate on unfavorable terms, give up their missiles, their nukes, their proxies, their oil, and wait for the United States to topple their government. They got nothing to lose. We have everything to lose. We take the island. If we win, we might bring an end to the war. If we lose and it's a suicide mission, then they're going to retaliate against Saudi energy, and it's going to be a catastrophe for us. If we take and hold the island, they might bomb their own energy and Saudi's energy, and it's a catastrophe for all of us. And what this appears to be is very similar to the first operation. It's another trap. It's another trap. We killed their supreme leader, sank their navy, we dropped 10,000 bombs on them. It's not enough. You got to do an invasion. We don't want to do an invasion. How about a small one? How about an island? Okay, I guess, we still want to win this thing. What happens when that doesn't work? Then what are you going to do? You're going to retreat. It's a sunken cost fallacy. We can't retreat now. We were too invested, so we got to go for the island. What happens when we lose the island? Well, we can't quit now. Look at how many Americans died. What happens when 1,000 Americans die and we don't take the island? Are we going to say, oh, well, we tried. We wash our hands of this. We lost. Does that make it more or less likely that we de-escalate? It's already impossible that we de-escalate. They're probably not even thinking about it. What happens when 1,000 Americans die? More or less likely than now. Then we're gonna come in with a vengeance. Oh, they killed 1,000 Americans. Now they really gotta pay. Now we need to send in 1,000,000 troops. We need to get the Kurds and the Saudis and the Emiratis. We need a coalition war. What happens when the UK and France deploy their only operable destroyers to the Strait and they lose them? Are they going to be involved in the war too? Is it going to be a coalition war now in Iran? This is what we're talking about. What does Israel want in the conflict? Israel wants regime change. They're not going home without it. They're having these peace talks. The U.S. and the intermediaries are threatening peace talks. What does Israel have to say about it? They say, we got to hit Iran as hard as we can in the next 2 days because peace might break out at any time. They have not let go of the dream of regime change. And they're not letting go to the people that will deliver it, which is us. They're drawing us further in. They want Americans to die. They want us to up the ante so that we get further stuck. So we have fewer and fewer off-ramps and options. And so the only possible path through is more escalation until we collapse the regime. And they will fight this war to the last American. Israel will fight their war with Iran to the last American, to the last gallon of oil, to the last barrel of oil, gallon of gas. That's what this is. Of course Israel wants us to up the ante. The more that we have invested, the more that we've lost, the more we have to recoup. So this is where it's going, and I don't like it. It's very unpredictable. It comes down to the president. It comes down to whether this operation succeeds, and literally it could go either way. And the fate of the world hangs in the balance. If Trump can get a deal and de-escalate, we can all breathe a sigh of relief. The Antichrist and his arrival is postponed. But if we fail and Americans die, get ready for another year of $200 oil. Get ready for oil to be $200 a gallon until 2028. And whatever the knock-on effects are of that on our AI economy, there are a lot of indicators that this is not going to go the way you think it will. That is the current state of the conflict. Now, in the meantime, they're prepping J.D. Vance to take over the peace talks. We covered this on Tuesday, and I am so vindicated. I said this last week. I said it last Monday. I said when David Sachs, and you know what else I found out? So that's the state of the conflict. That's the tactics. That's the strategy. That's your geopole. Now let's talk about politics. So, last week you had Joe Kent resign from the admin and yada, 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 right? Okay. Well, what nobody noticed, nobody was paying attention, wasn't last Saturday, but the Saturday before that, I was paying attention. David Sachs, the AI czar in the White House, he was the first admin official to come out against the war. David Sachs came out 2 Saturdays ago, and he said, we need to bring the war in Iran to a close. Do you know that as an AI czar, he's a temporary government employee? They can only bring him on for 120 days. His term just expired. Interesting timing. So David Sachs, because he's not a cabinet-level appointee, I don't know how all these regulations work, but there's a lot of regulations about how and under what conditions you can hire people in the administration. He was brought on for a limited time role. He only had 120 days as an AI czar, unofficial post. And his term just expired this week. Now he's going to be the chairman of the National Science and Technology Council. He's on the board or something. But his term just expired. But not before last week, he was the first Trump administration official, technically speaking, to say the war should end. That was 2 Saturdays ago. Then a few days later, Joe Kent resigned as the director of counterterrorism under the DNI with his letter saying that he's against the war in Iran. Then he went on Tucker the following day. And you know what I said 2 weeks ago? I said, I smell an operation. This is an op. Why? Because these are 2 Vance allies. These are 3 Vance allies. David Sachs cannot be understated. He is the Jew behind Elon Musk. Not really. He's actually a reasonable guy. I shouldn't say that because he's pretty reasonable, but he is a Jew, and he has been in Peter Thiel's orbit since 1992. They went to Stanford together. They wrote, The Diversity Myth? That was the book that kind of put Peter Thiel on the map. They co-wrote Diversity Myth, and they went on like a little tour together, and they were at Stanford. So David Sachs was with Peter Thiel from the beginning, as was Tucker Carlson, who has known Peter Thiel since 92 as well. They met in D.C. at some Fed convention, and Tucker, I believe, met the 2 of them. So Tucker is tight with Thiel. David Sachs is tight with Thiel. David Sachs was at PayPal and Confinity at the beginning. Confinity, that was Peter Thiel's peer-to-peer payment platform before PayPal, which Elon Musk then joined in the year 99 or 2000. So these guys are all there at the beginning. David Sachs and Thiel have been boys since college, and they were there before PayPal was PayPal. And then Elon Musk joined PayPal. And Peter Thiel has known Tucker since 92. They've all been there since the beginning. J.D. Vance, as you know, is a creation of Peter Thiel. J.D. Vance met Peter Thiel when he was at Yale, and Vance said that was the most important meeting of his lifetime. And Peter Thiel hooked him up with his first job in Silicon Valley at some biotech firm. And then Peter Thiel hooked him up with his job at a venture capital firm. And then Peter Thiel hired him at his venture capital firm. And then when Vance started his own venture capital firm, Peter Thiel funded it. And that venture capital firm invested in other companies that Peter Thiel had invested in. And then when Vance ran for Senate, Peter Thiel funded it to the tune of $15 million, as did David Sachs, who gave him $1 million. And when J.D. Vance sought the vice presidency, it was Peter Thiel, Elon Musk, and David Sachs, and Tucker Carlson that persuaded Trump to nominate him. When Vance ran for Senate, Tucker Carlson promoted him 45 times on Fox News. And they're friends. And Tucker Carlson's son, Buckley, works in J.D. Vance's office, the press office, as a matter of fact. Interesting, isn't it? Interesting that J.D. Vance's comms team has Tucker Carlson's son working in it. Do you think that Tucker Carlson's son talks to his father? J.D. Vance's comms team that talks to the press employs Tucker Carlson's son. Well, Tucker Carlson is part of the press, and he talks to his son. Okay, it goes around and around and around like this. Joe Kent ran for office in 2022. Peter Thiel maxed out his contribution for him. Tucker Carlson promoted his campaign on his show repeatedly. Joe Kent is in the CIA. Tucker Carlson's dad was in the CIA. Peter Thiel is a CIA contractor. His billions come from Palantir, which got venture capital funding from In-Q-Tel, the CIA's venture capital firm. Around and around it goes. Tucker Carlson's Tucker Carlson Network got seed funding from the Rockbridge Institute. That's Chris Buskirk from Claremont, Thiel-funded think tank. He got the money from 1789 Capital, created at Rockbridge, which is a Vance venture capital firm. It just goes around and around. These people are all connected, okay? So when David Sachs says he's against the war, and then Joe Kent says he's resigning from the admin over the war, and then Tucker interviews Joe Kent, you can bet that something is going on with J.D. Vance. Why? Because J.D. Vance is being sidelined by the Israelis. Why? Because Vance is friends with Tucker. Tucker criticizes Israel. So the Israelis are wondering if they have Vance in their pocket. He's not the safe option. Increasingly, they see Rubio as the safe option. Vance wants to run for president in 2028. Right now, he's the favorite. The Israelis want to change that. The Israelis, the Jew Zionists, they want to get Rubio in his position instead. So they are actually perfectly happy to see Trump fail because of the Iran war, because they know that Vance will fail with the administration. And they want him to. As they're playing a lot of games to convince people that Vance is responsible for the war. And they're trying to have him hanged alongside Trump by this catastrophe, which is the war. So Vance's people are running a counter-operation to save him from that culpability. How? They're trying to promote him as the negotiator who will end the war. So that's why they got David Sachs and Joe Kent out there protesting the war. Because they want Trump to see that. And inside the admin and outside the admin, they're suggesting that maybe Vance should be the one that extricates Trump from this quagmire. Kushner couldn't do it. Witkoff couldn't do it. Maybe Vance can. So there's been all these reports since this weekend, that the only man for the job to end the war is Vance. And this is coming from inside and outside. It seems there are elements inside the administration that want Vance to lead the charge. So now the Israelis are going to the press and saying, well, the only people that want Vance to take the initiative on this are the Iranians. Vance's allies, inside and outside, are saying, if anyone can bring an end to the conflict, it's J.D. Vance, because they want him to be at that negotiating table, getting the credit for ending the war. Why? So that in 2027 or 28, when he's grilled, and they say, where were you when the Iran war started? He could say, well, I didn't agree with it, but I supported my president, and I brought an end to it. I was the one that negotiated an end to it. They're solving the Iran problem for him early. Well, the Israelis have anticipated this, and they're countering him. How? They're going to their papers. Miriam Adelson's paper in Israel said Vance and Netanyahu are fighting. And the New York Post, a Murdoch-owned paper, friend of Netanyahu, says the only people that want Vance to negotiate with the Iranians are the Iranians. Why are they saying that? They're saying that because they want to poison pill the idea. Well, the only people that want Vance to lead the negotiations are the enemy, because the enemy thinks they can get one over on him. They're lobbying Trump. The Vance people are lobbying Trump to let Vance take the lead and solve his Iran problem. The Israelis are lobbying Trump, saying the only people that want Vance to lead it are the enemy, because they think they can take advantage of him. Don't let Vance lead the charge. There's this battle going on. And I anticipated this, and I told you this was the case. And this is the story from Axios, from Barak Ravid. It says, quote, Vice President J.D. Vance is preparing to take on the most important assignment of his career, steering U.S. efforts to end a war he'd been concerned about waging in the first place. Was he concerned? Says who? Says Barak Ravid? I don't trust Barak Ravid. Says who? The Israelis? I don't trust, or I don't know, some of the Jews in the administration? I don't trust them. Some people say he was in favor. Other people say he was skeptical about the war in the first place. Not so sure about that. It says Vance has already made multiple calls with Netanyahu, Gulf allies, about the war, and has been involved in indirect communications with the Iranians. He's expected to be the top U.S. negotiator in potential peace talks. Is he? Whose expectations are those? Says who? This is like, watch House of Cards. They're speaking it into existence. Nobody was expecting that Vance would lead the negotiations. They're saying that. They're engaging in creation. They say he's widely expected. No one's expecting that. They want people to acquiesce to this, to accede to this. Oh, well, Vance is going to, so people are saying you're going to be the guy, huh? Oh, I suppose so. It's a trick. Vance was highly skeptical of Israel's rosy pre-war assessment of how the war would unfold, and currently expects the war to continue for another few weeks, say U.S. and Israeli sources. Was he skeptical? Because the New York Times says he was all in. All in. Interesting that some of the stateside sources from the Times say he was all in, but some of the Israeli sources and U.S. sources say no, he was very skeptical. It's hard to know what to believe here. Vance advisors think some in Israel are trying to undermine the VP, possibly because they find him insufficiently hawkish. Israeli officials deny that. President Trump made Vance's role official in a cabinet meeting on Thursday, asking the VP to give an update on Iran and noting that he was working with Steve Witkoff and Jared Kushner on the negotiations. A senior official said if the Iranians can't strike a deal with Vance, they don't get a deal. He's the best they're going to get. Why do you think they're saying that? A White House official sought to tamp down the speculation, saying that Witkoff and Kushner are still working their lines, and the VP is ready to play his part if negotiations ripen, but we aren't there yet. The Iranians need to decide if and how they want to come to the table. Administration officials suspect foreign agents of spreading the word that Iran wants to negotiate with Vance. Vance advisor Andrew Sarabian said on X that a CNN report to that effect was evidence of a foreign propaganda op. He didn't say it was Israel. An administration official told Axios, referring to the narrative that the Iranians see Vance as inclined to cut a deal and get out, it's an Israeli op against JD. There's no evidence of such an Israeli operation, says Axios. White House officials started suspecting that some in the Israeli government were trying to smear Vance after a difficult phone call on Monday between Netanyahu and Vance. In the call, Vance mentioned that several of Netanyahu's predictions about the war had proven to be too optimistic, particularly when it came to prospects of a popular uprising to topple the regime, according to an Israeli and U.S. source. The day after that call, a right-wing Israeli newspaper owned by Miriam Adelson reported that Vance had yelled at Netanyahu over the issue of settler violence against Palestinians in the West Bank. Multiple U.S. and Israeli sources said the story was erroneous, and Vance advisors suspected it was leaked by the Israeli side. An Israeli official denied Netanyahu planted the story and said his office had actually denied it when approached by reporters from multiple outlets. So I told you this was happening. I told you something is up in the White House. Something is up. And if I were to guess, I would say it is this. This war is a disaster. And Vance owns the war. Why? Because he's the vice president. Why? Because his competitive advantage, his comparative advantage against Rubio is that he's America first, a national populist, and so on. Rubio, as Secretary of State, may not serve the full 4 years. And either way, he will be credited with the Caribbean portfolio, not the Middle East. He will be credited for the successful Southern Spear operation, the takeover in Venezuela, the operation forthcoming in Cuba, not the debacle in the Middle East. And Rubio is sidestepping the issue. What's more, Rubio is now the favorite of the Israelis and the pro-Israel Jews as of the last several months. Why? Because after my interview with Tucker and Tucker's general anti-Semitism, which I don't agree with, by the way, I'm against blood guilt, Tucker seems to hate Jews. I don't, because I'm a Christian and I hate blood guilt. So I agree with Tucker on a lot of things. I don't agree that when he says things like hummus-eating Pharisees that killed Christ, I'm like, hey man, I don't agree with the blood guilt, okay? We all killed Christ because our sins put him on the cross. So I don't agree with that. Tucker's a little too hardcore, and I think he should really lighten up and stop hating Jews so much. Anyway, that's just an aside. But it's Tucker's anti-Semitism. It's his hatred of Israel. It's his alliance with me, which is deep and fruitful and deepening all the time, every single day. We have a great relationship. It is my friendship with Tucker, and it is Tucker's connection with Vance, which has made the Jews and the Israelis skeptical of Vance. They told us. After my interview with Tucker, after the Tucker cost, Republican Jewish Coalition held a summit in Vegas, and Mark Levin, the chief propagandist in the war, he said, we the Jews have our resources, our clout, our positions, and we're going to use them. He said, and we're going to be watching very carefully at who associates with who and who disavows who. He said, and we're going to make our decisions for 2028. And what he was implying is this. If Vance doesn't fire Buckley Carlson, if Vance doesn't disavow Tucker and the Groypers, then organized Jewry will back somebody else. That is what he was saying. They were all telegraphing that, if you have eyes to see and ears to hear. And ever since late October, the Jewish money has quietly been moving to Rubio. If you pay attention, the evidence for this is everywhere. He's so presidential. He gave that NATO speech in Europe. He handled Venezuela. He's so competent. And at a White House meeting, 25 Wall Street donors raised their hand in a meeting with Trump and said they prefer Rubio to Vance. So the Israeli money was already moving, okay? World Jewry was already moving against Vance and in favor of Rubio. And this Iranian war, this is just the cherry on top. This is what will bury Vance. They're going to get Vance to own the liability. They'll save their boy Rubio. This is their plan. Well, the Vance people are not going down without a fight. They see this. They're countering it. How? Well, they're against the war, actually, because they think it will hurt JD's chances. This is why Bronze Age Pervert is against the war. He's allowed to be, even though he's a Jew. Tucker is against the war. I think he's also just against war in general. And there's a faction from within the CIA that is against the war. They're pro-Israel, but they're against the war. More on that later. So they're trying to save JD's fat ass. How? Well, they had Joe Kent leave. Why? Because he's going to endorse Vance in 2027 or 28, and he'll have credibility. All the people that are against the war are going to say, well, where was J.D. Vance during the Iran war? And in comes Joe Kent to say, remember me, remember my letter? I was a conscientious objector. Well, I endorse Vance. He's being put into place, mark my words. So will Tucker, so will the others. And they, at the same time, are working inside and outside the administration to give Vance the opportunity to end the war. Why? Because that's the line they're going to use during the primary. They're going to take a negative and turn it into a positive. It goes from Vance was a pussy and hid because he didn't want to be blamed for this catastrophic war, to Vance was quiet because he didn't want to defy his president, his boss, but he had his reservations, and in the end, he was the lead negotiator that ended the war. Counterattack. The Israelis see Team Vance moving, and they're countering it. How? They're poisoning the well. Jews love poisoning wells. They love Christian blood for ritualistic purposes. That's a joke. They don't do that. That's a Tucker Carlson belief. I don't subscribe to that. That's something Tucker Carlson is really plugged into, I think. He thinks Jews poisoned the wells in the Middle Ages to kill Christians, to kill Goyim. I would imagine he thinks that. And I think that's blood guilt, and I don't like that shit, because I'm a Christian. Anyway, I tried to talk him in off the ledge. He wouldn't listen. I went on a show. I was extending an olive branch. I was trying to convince him, bro, you shouldn't hate these people just because they're Jewish. Like, he wouldn't listen. That's a joke. Anyway. But so, the Israelis, they are poisoning the well. If Team Vance is trying to save him by anointing him the lead negotiator who will save us from the war, the Israelis are sabotaging this effort. How? They're going into the Israeli press and saying, Vance hates Israel. They're going into the American press and they're saying the only people that want Vance to lead the negotiations are the Iranians, because the Iranians know they could pull one over on him. And it tracks, because they're saying that Tucker is a Qatari and an Iranian, right? If they say the Iranians want Vance, and the people that want Vance to lead the negotiations are the Iranians, well, they say Tucker is pro-Iran. They say that whole scene is Iranian, Qatari. It fits, it tracks with this. They're poisoning that. Now, what are we supposed to think and feel about this? Well, let me tell you something. You might be inclined to say, well, if Vance is going to end the war, who are we to oppose? And I sort of agree with that, actually. You know what? If Vance can end the war, then good for him. I believe Tucker and Joe Kent and David Saxon Vance, they're against the war. I believe that. I believe that's true. And it is a good thing. If Miriam Adelson and Rupert Murdoch are poisoning the well and they're trying to hurt Vance, if Mark Levin is against Vance, then that's a good thing for Vance. That means that's good. That being said, I am a little bit still skeptical. The reason, number one, they want to save Vance. More than that, number two, these people that are either involved with the foreign government or the CIA, I'm talking about Tucker, Kent, Vance, Sachs, Peter Thiel, to the extent that they are against the war, it is not because they are against Israel. They're not. They're not against Israel, and they make it clear all the time. Joe Kent says, I'm not saying we're against Israel, I'm against Netanyahu. I'm against the war. You notice that Tucker says the exact same thing? Tucker says, I'm not against Israel, I'm against the war. I'm against Netanyahu. When he interviewed Piers Morgan in Saudi Arabia last year, Piers Morgan said, why are you against foreign aid to Ukraine but not Israel? How much foreign aid should we give Israel? Tucker wouldn't answer the question. He wouldn't say one way or the other. Should we cut foreign aid? Should we not? Wouldn't commit. Why? It's because they represent a faction. They're not anti-Israel. They're not against world Jewry, even. They actually see Israel as an indispensable ally. They just believe that the hardliners in Israel, the hardliners, a faction of the regime, want the United States to do more than is in our interest. And would be detrimental because we need to do things elsewhere, specifically in China. Tucker's a China hawk. Vance, Thiel, Bannon are China hawks. Steve Bannon at CPAC, I'm very disappointed. I thought me and Steve Bannon were going to be friends. But I have to say, Steve Bannon took the stage at CPAC and says, I like Josh Hammer. Josh Hammer's a great guy. No, he isn't. Josh Hammer is the scum of the earth. Josh Hammer hates whites, is a dual loyalist. He's a Israel first Jew. It could not be more clear his contempt for this country and its people. No, he's not a good guy. He's not a patriot. He's a dirtbag, and he's a fucking idiot, and he's ugly. Bannon is a China hawk. Tucker is a China hawk. Thiel is a China hawk. They're not anti-Israel. They are incidentally Israel critical because the hardliners in Israel want us to fight Iran and not China. That's their problem. There's only enough Patriot missile batteries and THAAD systems to go around. There's only enough U.S. force to go around. And they don't want it in Ukraine. That's why they're against the war in Ukraine. And they don't want it in the Gulf because they don't want a war with Iran. They want it in Taiwan. They want it in Taiwan to defend against China because they see that as the future. And I'm not necessarily against that per se. I'm not against that in and of itself in principle because I think that's a more appropriate U.S. posture for sure. It's not all wrong. There's some nuance here. There's some subtlety. But I do believe that unless we confront world Jewry, I don't know that China is our biggest threat. I honestly do believe it is going to be an Israeli superstate. Whatever Israel becomes after this conflict, I believe that might be the biggest threat to America. China has some long-term problems baked in. Yes, they have the shipbuilding capacity. Yes, they have a more purchasing power. They have a much larger industrial base and so on. But China's got some problems baked in. And at the end of the day, we can share the world with China. And China has not penetrated our system to the same extent as the Jews. And so I really believe that if your posture is, we can be friends with Israel, we just need to kind of get them to back off a little bit so that we can focus on China. Directionally, I'm not against that, but I think you're putting the cart before the horse. I think we have to actually prioritize extricating our society from the influence of international Jewry first. Although that sounds crazy, I think first you got to get these Jews out of AI. That's our number one national security threat. Yes, there's a race going on between Chinese AI and American AI. But American AI isn't even American because it's run by Sam Altman. And it's run by all these people. I mean, our Silicon Valley is penetrated by Unit 8200, by Mossad. It's not really ours. And you see this energy crisis. What happens when Israel controls that choke point, not Iran? What happens when Israel controls the Red Sea and the Persian Gulf rather than the Houthis in Iran? What then? Israel wants to colonize the islands in Greece. Israel wants to colonize Cyprus. Israel wants to colonize the Sinai. They want to build a base in Somaliland in southern Yemen. They want to take control of Yemen. They want to create a Kurdish state or something. They want to control that whole swath. They want to control the Bosporus Strait. They want to control the Aegean, the Eastern Med, the Red Sea, the Persian Gulf, the Caspian Sea. They want it all. And they've got influence in Russia, and they've got influence in the U.S., and they have their fingerprints all over our defense industry, our AI industry. I'm deeply skeptical because Vance is a part of this problem itself. If Vance's sugar daddy is Peter Thiel, just look at who Peter Thiel is in business with. Peter Thiel runs Palantir with Alex Karp. Who's one of these guys? He's a Jew, loyal to Israel. Because Peter Thiel is not threatened by the Zionist. He thinks we have to just deal with them. And these people all run in the same circles. You know who was the first guy to contribute to Trump's campaign from that world? It was Jacob Hellberg. Jacob Hellberg is married to Keith Raboy. He's currently the assistant to Alex Karp. He's in tight with Sam Altman. I believe Sam Altman officiated his wedding, his gay wedding, his literal gay wedding to his husband, Keith Raboy, who was at Facebook, I believe. These people are all, okay? And Jacob Hellberg is like a pro-Israel Jew. Now he's an AI technology advisor in the government. And Sam Altman and Peter Thiel, they're working together. Alex Karp and Sam Altman are working together. These people are all running in the same circle. So the idea that we're going to put little tech J.D. Vance, who wants to work with Israel, not the hardliners, but the other elements, to take on China, I don't trust them, and I don't trust that. So, yes, they're trying to bring an end to the war in Iran to save Vance, also because they're prioritizers. As a faction in the Pentagon, they want to prioritize Indo-Pacific over Europe and the Middle East, but the real priority is that we get our sovereignty back. And that seems to be a non-starter when you have little tech infiltrated by the Israelis, and Vance represents all of them. They're the kingmaker for Vance's ascendancy. So that's the other side of this, and that's the other track to watch, is the role that Vance will play. And it's funny that Whitney Webb doesn't see any of this. Hey, numbnuts. Hey, dummy. You see Whitney Webb's take? Whitney Webb went on Jimmy Dore. It's a show for idiots. And Whitney Webb goes, so the reason that Joe Kent resigned is because they want to groom far-right terrorists for pre-crime. It's like, you fucking idiot. So and for you, everything just is one thing. Every question has the same answer. A CIA officer wrote this letter. Why did he resign? Pre-crime, a false flag, pre-crime. That's all you got. One-trick pony. It's right there in front of you, dumbass. It's right there in front of you. I saw Whitney Webb on Jimmy Dore. Whitney Webb wrote One Nation Under Blackmail, and everybody glazes her ceaselessly, without rest. They glaze her without a reprieve. Whitney Webb goes on Jimmy Dore, and she goes, well, I would be very cautious about Joe Kent because he's CIA. I'm going, okay. And Jimmy Dore says, well, why? What's the angle? And she goes, well, I don't know. If I had to guess, maybe it's because Joe Kent is going to catalyze anti-Semitic right-wing terrorism. She goes, because in the first Trump administration, they said the domestic violent extremist threat is coming from the far right, and Joe Kent is from the far right, and so if he writes this letter, it's going to galvanize anti-Semites to do terrorism, and then they're going to do a pre-crime AI system. And I'm like, you're just guessing. You're just guessing, and you have no idea what you're talking about. Hey, it's right there in front of you, stupid. Didn't you see David Sachs' statement? Don't you know that Peter Thiel maxed out the individual contribution to Joe Kent? Don't you know any of this stuff? Stupid. But you don't, because you're just a stupid liberal. But you wouldn't know any of that because you're just a stupid liberal. And all your ideological priors are wrong. Because you have to sit there and insist that it's Israel, not Jews. And there's something inherently wrong with the ideological foundations, scaffolding for our critique of Jewish influence. You have to insist upon this because you are a stupid liberal, and that is why you're never going to get it. So take off the glasses and shut the fuck up. I saw that. It was embarrassing. I left a comment. If you don't know what I'm talking about, go to my Twitter. I left a reply on it today. These people, they just don't get it. Because you're not as smart as me. This is the only show that has 20/20 vision. I'm sorry, it's just true. Name one other show that noticed any of this. Go ahead, I'll wait. Name one other show that has spelled all of this out the way that I just did. Name one other show. None. None. Zero. Nada. Because I am the best in the world at what I do. And this is the #1 show in the country. If you want to know what's going on, you got to watch this show. There's nobody else. There's nothing else. I'm him. So anyway, not Whitney Webb, not Ryan Dawson, not Secular Talk, bitch, with your disgusting set, with your garish white bookshelf set, not Crystal Ball and Sanjay Gupta, not Crystal Ball and the genie from a lamp, bitch ass, not anti-white Ryan Grimm. And no, this is the only show. This is the only show that has clocked all of that. Why? I'm next level. I held in. This is all I do. This is what I am, okay? This is what I do, nigger. This is what I do for a living. I'm dialed in like that. It's precision strikes. Okay, this is your boutique. What did China say about us? They said we have, forget what word they use. It's a funny word for our weapon systems. But that's what it's about here. So anyway, I'm the only one that called it out. I'm the only one. The only one that sees all of it. You have all these other shows. You're not going to hear this on The Judge, which snubbed me. You know, Judge Napolitano is like those astronauts that didn't believe in Elon Musk. I'll show you. You're not going to hear this on The Judge. Let's just put it that way. As much as I love The Judge, but he doesn't care about me. As much as I love John Mearsheimer, but he doesn't care about me either. I'll just outclass all of you. Fine, I'll do it. Anyway. Casual Friday. Casual Friday, we're letting our nuts hang. We're going to move on. We're going to get into the super chats. We'll see what you guys have to say about this. But enough out of me. Let's hear what you guys have to say. Let's take a look. Let's take a look. I'm just saying. Who else? Who else? Clocked this. I saw this Vance thing from 6 million miles away. I saw it over the curvature of the Earth. I literally said, David Sachs, Joe Kent, that's an op. Whitney Webb still don't even know. She still don't even know. It's right there in front of you, girlfriend, and she still doesn't even know. I saw it coming practically from outer space. I said, David Sachs, Joe Kent, yup, this is a Vance op. Wait until he's in front of the peace process. And this dumbass, she's talking about pre-crime, bitch. It's not about pre-crime. It doesn't even make any sense. You know, yeah, for her, everything needs to fit in one box. Everything needs to fit. It all goes into one thing, which is like a right-wing dictatorship doing pre-crime. Wrong. 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 This is why this is for guys. You think a girl can do it? Not even her. No, this is for guys. This is why it's got to be guys. Sorry, sweetheart. And it's got to be right-wingers. No liberal faggots. No, sorry. No, they're not going to get it either. They're not dialed. The crystal ball could never come up with this stuff. She can call me a disgusting racist. Yeah, well, I guess a disgusting racist is infinitely smarter than you, sweetheart. Because you could never. Anyway. I just got to toot my own horn a little bit. We're going to move on, though. We're going to take a look at our super chats. This hair keeps sticking up here. Let's see what we got. Let's take a look. We'll see what we got here. All right. Take it to the bank number. And when you're the best in the world, they let you do it to them. They let you do anything. They let you do it to them. When you're #1, they let you do it. So, I'm just saying, you want to know what's going on in the world, you watch this show. You know, maybe you flirt with the other stuff, but at the end of the day, you're coming home to me. No, let's not go there. Let's not even take it there. We're got to stop at the Chad Champion comment. People are going to draw some negative inferences there. So anyway, this is the real deal.
You're 1,000% correct about this. That's play for 28. It's spooky. You'll be vindicated yet again once it comes to pass.
I know. Every day. It's every day, bro. Hold up. Can I switch the language? It's every day, bro.
Palest of the Pale Grow Ever.
Welcome to Delicious.
Great show. Feel your pain with the full spring. Same thing here in New England. Love the new merch. Although we'll all continue to hide our power levels, the teens and I are going to break out and get something new that we can either wear indoors or smuggle it into our various rallies, etc. Winking face emoji.
Well, thank you for the big super chat. I appreciate it. Yeah, man. Yeah, New England. I love New England. But yeah, this full spring is brutal. Like, make it warm now. I wish we had weather where it was always like 60s and cloudy. And night was 20 hours. Alas. Thank you for the big super chat, though. I'm glad you love the merch. The designers did a great job. So God bless. No, but I'm glad to hear it.
Yep.
I'm ready for the warmth, man. It's too cold.
I made cookies at $30. Would you rather be an organic meat on cutting board food as fuel chun, or married to a slut who's busted it down and claps Sprinter van while you say happy wife, happy life at home? PHX for the new merch. Goat emoji. Sucks I can't pay my rent next month now. But I'll be homeless wearing my white quarter zip.
Let's go.
Hashtag grab sneakers I can't squeeze.
Okay, it was funny on Tuesday. Organic meat on cutting board. I think I would prefer that. Clav Sprinter van, huh? Where good girls go to die. Happy marriages go to get genocided on. Clav's like a mobile crematorium. Clav Sprinter van is like a mobile crematorium. 6 million marriages were heartlessly blotted out. We remember them. We tell their story still. We never forget the 6 million marriages. They were lured in there and then trapped. Their marriages were destroyed. 6 million hearts were broken. Sensitive young men. Yeah, so I'd definitely rather be the judge.
Houston Waging said $100. I'm going to drive my son to school tomorrow.
Good for you. Thank you for the big super chat.
West Coast Roller said $20. I'm going to Germany next month. You think I should cancel the trip because of what you said about a likely disaster?
You can't live your life in fear. I would just fully send it. Who cares?
You're in a room for said $20. Simon Scola, modern monarchist. That's so Greekoid. Farid Lukovic. Never miss these guys when listening to New Slump Super Chats.
I haven't heard those names in a long time. Farid Lukovic. Remember him? Modern monarchist. Oh, Simon Scola. Sure. That's not Greekoid, kind of. I think I remember him.
Ruthless Super said $20. Do not counter Sidelick. He knows what he is doing. He doesn't randomly say shit for no reason. If he ever does, he'll take care of it on his own. 07.
True. Very so true.
Rowan Holly Handjobs at $21. Similar beard here. Try just for men. I thought it would look fake, but no, it really evens out the color and looks way fuller.
I think it looks full. I'm not going for like a big long beard. Just a little scruff. Look at that jawline. I just stopped eating. It's called I stopped eating.
Your name said $20. Say Emirates wrong one more time.
Why do you say Emirates?
Random Simon said $50.
Emirates?
People underpaid how many times Iran tried to mend relations.
Because it's an emir, so it's an emirate.
Random Simbahi said $50.
What do you say, emirate? It's Emirates.
Random Simbahi said $50. People underrate how many times Iran tried to mend relations and could have been an ally. In 2001, the IRGC and US fought side by side in Herat, Afghanistan. 2003 Grand Deal. 2015 JCPOA, etc., etc.
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't, there's some truth to that. I wouldn't overstate that, though. Yeah, maybe it's underrated. I wouldn't go crazy.
Robert Pierce said $20. Grab Sneako's deck and squeeze killed me. My flip phone is YouTube and Google Maps feds are still tracking me regardless as of age.
There's no escape.
Palantir's Boy Toy said $20. But Nick, if JD doesn't win in 28, then Palantir stock won't go up. Josh's Pack said $20. Thanks for the media literacy lesson, helping me navigate the modern MSM during these odd times.
You got it.
Texoma Groiver said $20. Few indirect lines vindicated. AFAI goes Q and gold representing America first to the fullest. God bless our Emperor and JF.
Thank you.
Software
Appreciate it.
$20. Just tell Claude, Clear, to fix the super chat code. It's really that simple. Thoughts on the robot in software?
My niggas, they're always like, no, we can't do that. I always tell them, I'm like, tell AI to do it. They're like, the thing is broken. I'm like, fucking get AI to do it. Can't you ask AI? And they're like, no, we can't do it. I'm like, why not? Why not? It's putting Workday out of business. It's putting Intuit out of business. But for us, it's different. I'm not a computer guy, so I don't know. I don't know how any of that works. I'm a computer numbskull.
I could be your grandma sent $25. Did you see that Florida is following the plan? Tallahassee, Florida. Democrats set to control 2 state through reliably red Florida, flipping 2 legislative seats, including the district containing President Donald Trump's Mar-a-Lago home. America first.
Hell yeah, I love it. I love to see it. I let Democrat majority bring it forward.
Pro sent $20. Birds are protectors. Tel Aviv is code Sharia law greater than Judeo-Christian values. Absolute coal mine from Sneeko today.
He's such a kohler. And it's just like, he hates America, bro. Sneeko hates America. Today he goes, Sharia law is incompatible because we're not like degenerate pieces of shit. No, Sharia law is incompatible because it is fundamentally not of the West. It's because you force your women to wear like a giant black face mask and cloak like that. How about that for openers? How about brushing your teeth with a stick? How about facing Mecca? How about forcing non-believers to pay a jizya? How about all the other shit? How about jihad? How about, beating the shit out of women? How about all this other crazy stuff you got going on in there? No pork, halal only. Just stop with that. Just stop.
Are you smarter than a fifth grower sent $20? How many states border the Gulf of Mexico?
Oh, let's see. Whoa. Well, you got the United States, you got Mexico, you got Belize, you got... Let's go in the other... I don't believe... Is Guatemala? I'm not sure. But I know it's Honduras, I know it's Nicaragua, El Salvador, Panama, Costa Rica, Colombia, Venezuela, Guyana, Suriname, France, because you got French Guyana, Cuba, Jamaica, Haiti. Does Dominican Republic count? I mean, maybe not really. I mean, how big is the Gulf of Mexico? Is it only the northern part, or? I guess it's bounded by, like, Mexico, Florida, Cuba. So then you would say maybe Bahamas as well. I mean, do all the islands count? I don't know. I guess I don't really know how big. If it's everything from, like, America to... Because then it's like the South American coast and the U.S. coast. Oh, states. I thought you meant, like, governments, like countries. States. That's just, like, what, Texas, Louisiana, Florida, Alabama, Mississippi. That's it, right? Just that. I thought you meant, like, when you said states, I thought you meant, like, governments. Yeah, that one I'm gonna get. That one I'm gonna get all day.
$20. Bought my weight in America first spring merch. Ungodly amount of W items. Go get yours now.
Yes, totally.
Foundation Grower sent $100. The most vindicated man alive. I just hiked all my transport rates because of this oil price. A lot of my clients are simply closing here in Africa. You're damn right, low recession coming in hot.
A lot of bad signs, man. Thank you for the big super chat. Everybody is saying it's far worse than they're telling us. And it's going to be a true recession because of all these knock-on effects. It's going to put a lot of these companies out of business, and then that's going to put other businesses out of business. It's going to get ugly. The price of energy has doubled. The price of oil was about 65, now it's 117. So the price of energy doubled. And again, all the growth is coming from AI, which is totally dependent on energy. And that's all the new construction. Data centers are outpacing office in terms of construction and commercial real estate. So if AI collapses, well, the software side's going to collapse. The hardware side, NVIDIA is going to collapse. The construction and support is going to collapse. The materials, it's like, it's all going to get more expensive. Homeowners insurance, mortgage rates, raw materials, commodities, it's like everything's going up, which means everything is going down.
Robin from Nevada sent $30. Hi, Nick.
It's pretty
Loving
bad.
your show. Keep up your greatness. First always. For the love of God, don't shave that beard. Blue
You like the beard? What do you think? I don't know. We'll see.
Interior Union Grower sent $20. Please pray for the safety of Palm Beach BPF's time lookalike. Schizo going want to lynch him like it's Hellstar Romina.
Really? That's terrible.
Lil Nega in a big world sent $20. Unfortunately, the new Archbishop of Canterbury is void. Anglicans need to get our shit together. End of civilization signs.
You just gotta leave, bro. Get your shit together. I mean, if that's not a sign that you ain't it. If you see an like the Pope of your religion becomes a girl, And you're like, we gotta fix this. There's no... Okay, you can't fix it.
Pay the bronze sent $20. Nick, can the Groy Pets get a size L/XL in the draw? I'm looking for that oversized fit. Smiley face emoji. Keep up the great work. King, we're rooting for you.
No Tortoise. Sorry, no Tortoise are going to be wearing the shirt.
Level for $25. What is your take on people putting stickers that say, the juice did this, on gas station pumps where the price is?
I think it's a bad idea.
Random Recess sent $20. Study finds eating bugs causes throat cancer, and here I am thinking it would be the Al pouches that did him in. So sad.
I saw that same thing too. Yeah, bad idea.
Rick Romney sent $20.
Don't do it.
Rewatching your 24 election stream. You played an edit by Chris Burnett. I was genuinely sad about the hope I had for Trump.
Grow up.
Bullharstad Effect sent
Just grow up.
$20. Pull up to Norway for your next break and I'll show you around the fjords. Lane Roy sent
Okay.
$25. Prayers for Noelia Castillo Ramos, may she find peace. Folded hands emoji. Pensive face emoji.
Very true.
Rover in the swamp sent $30. I need some advice. I'm currently a sophomore in college. I'm having to work plus 50 hours a week to pay for it and my living expenses. I'm also a senior leader in a congressional campaign. I struggle to balance it all, and I feel like I'm giving up on one when I work on the other. How do you deal with that kind of load?
Pause. Let's see. Working to go to college, and you're on a congressional campaign. Some's got to give. I mean, look, either you fully send it and you just work your ass off, or some's got to give. I mean, it's not a hard problem. You just got to make some decisions. How long are you going to be on the campaign? I mean, what, 8 months? Can you handle it for 8 months? You're going to be away from school during the summer. Maybe you hang on until the end of spring. Go through the summer. Then do you take some time off the campaign in the home stretch? I don't know, man. You want some advice? You're asking the wrong guy for time management advice. I mean, I can barely do a show every night. I have a 2-hour commitment every day. I can barely do it. So. You're asking the wrong... I'm Italian. You're asking the wrong guy.
The Cuban Beast sent $30. American Apocalypse movie African Americans beating white people in nice areas of Chicago like last weekend. Scene change boots on the ground in Iran. Trump drops a nuke. Scene change to the overcrowded airport. Everyone's phones are getting national emergency alerts to seek shelter because Russia...
Okay, just shut the fuck up and kill yourself. That's so bad. So
Sailing
bad.
Force sent $200. Hey Nick, Ascension is purely monetary for now, so here's a slice for the realest news and realest guy in the game. Really enjoyed the women monologue on Tuesday. Was it Tuesday? Gave me some peace.
Glad to hear it. We all need a little peace, don't we? Thank you for the big super chat. I appreciate it. Yes. You got it. You got it, but I appreciate it. The Ascension is only monetary? What does that mean? You're fat? I'll take the super chat.
Saucy Flower sent $5. Good evening, Nick. I'm meeting James Fishback soon and was wondering if you had any questions you'd want to ask. Thanks.
That's crazy.
Blitzkrieg sent $25. Saw someone with a WAG's license plate on my drive home earlier. It also happened to be a woman. Crazy.
Whoa. That's kind of awesome.
Dramatic Rover sent $50. Sneeko streaming in mosques with European Muslims reminds me of white evangelicals posting photo dumps with black kids on their African missionary trip. All love though. Hopefully he finds Jesus.
I hope so too. Pray for
Sauce
Sneeko.
Patriot sent $20. W. Drewski.
Yeah,
What do you
9
mean?
sent $20. Hi Nick. 14-year-old Roy Buller here.
No
I
problem.
promise I'm evaluating
Get 'em
potential.
off your back.
Parents forced me to vex hub. Am I cooked? Much love.
Is that real or is that fake? 14-year-old Freudler. Well, he didn't die yet. I think the vaccine stuff was exaggerated. There was a position between the vaccine as like a nanobot bioweapon to kill the Goyim and people saying it's safe and effective. I think that the risks were overstated, or rather understated. And the risks outweighed the benefits for younger populations. I think that's really what it is. But it's obviously... There was a time when people were saying it's going to cause mad cow disease. Remember that? Voice crack. Remember that? They said it's going to cause mad cow disease. It's going to make everybody crazy. It's going to be like a zombie apocalypse. And that's just not happening. So, I think you'll be okay. Yeah, I wouldn't worry.
Diddy Sprinkles sent $100 for CC Red 95. The go.
Hey, thank you for the big super chat. I appreciate it. He is the GOAT.
Diddy Sprinkles sent $50. No message.
And no message. Love it.
Jared Baju sent $50. 114. I am excited for the Groin Pet crop top so I don't have to tuck my shirt under my chin while I film POV content.
Okay, thank you for that. Appreciate it. Thanks.
Messing up until your generational run. I think you broke it. Plus, what does Nick have to do to get a deal around here? The only wag that deserves it.
I can't really talk about those discussions, but yeah, they can't do it. They can't do it. Let a nigga get paid. I'm so underpaid. I would be so much richer. But I don't give a shit about money. Do you know how much money I've turned down? I've turned down like $2.5 million in the past year. Because I would have to compromise in one way or another. $2.5 million in 1 year. That's a lot of dough. $2.5 million I've turned down over my principles. And I probably would have made millions more off of Kick and Rumble if I just wasn't, like, anti-Semitic or whatever. So, the most chronically under... People say, shut up, you make all this money. It's like, I know I should be making like 10 times as much, but I do it for you guys. I do it for the truth. If I did it for you guys, I would have sold out maliciously. I would have sold out with a vengeance. I would have, like, joined the enemy to hurt you specifically. Like, that would be the goal. It wouldn't be like a benign, like, hey, we gotta pick our battles. If I was doing it for you, I would have switched sides and become a malicious inquisitor, like maliciously hurt you on purpose for money. I would have done the opposite. I would do things to lose money to hurt you more. As opposed to, like, not taking the money out of principle, I would go out of my way to lose money to inflict more pain because I get off on the cruelty more. No, I'm kidding. I love you.
Holding sent $20.
Just a joke.
Why didn't you read my super chat on Tuesday? I sent $20. I watch from Denmark every time, man.
I don't know, maybe you sent it in too late. Oh, the super chat thing was broken on Tuesday. And I said that.
Ultimate Boy sent 25.
So
The
relax.
final red pill is realizing religion is a way to cope with the uncertainty of what's after death. Face the final boss.
Oh, that's crazy. The real red pill is that religion is like the opiate of the masses, dude. Oh, yeah, right.
Marble sent $20.
Takes another hit, yeah.
Marble
Another
sent $20.
genius.
Have you seen the absolute slop the White House account on X is posting? Niggas are treating this like it's an ARG.
That was crazy. Their little, that commercial they did. They're so gay, dude. It's
John
so
Graham
bad.
89 sent $20. Love the telegram today. Go on, gang. I'll join the plus chat when I'm no longer waging. Ashkenazi Haitian
Wow,
Filipino
thanks,
Chinese American
thanks.
sent $20. Hey Nick, been watching you ever since I saw a clip on Reels last year. I think it's obvious that Berlin Hollyhand is hiding his power level. He couldn't even help it when he went on Fox after Charlie.
Oh, really?
Simpsons sent $20.
Yeah.
Nick, my buddy and I recruited a homeless dude to the cause today by putting him onto your show. Shout out to the homeless bro-ivers. I'm doing my part. Embarrassed smiley face.
Great.
High Speed
Amazing.
sent $20. How do you think Trump will take aggressive actions against the cartels? We saw him label them terrorists and talk about it.
Maybe.
Sonny sent $20. Nick, Friedrich List is so boring. I think I'll have a West pizza for dinner with my ABG.
He's really
Hashtag
not. If you think he's boring, you're just dumb.
Melissa sent $50. Mortified. Didn't realize previous message would be read on air. Face with peeking eye emoji. Just wanted to support you in the show. Hope you read the donation today. God bless. THX for not roasting me too much.
Don't worry about it. That's okay. Well, I don't know how you would think it wouldn't be. Have you ever watched the show? I didn't think my super chat would be read on the show. Have you ever watched one of these episodes here before? I'm just teasing.
Serena B sent $50. If feminism is a ploy to make the goyim go extinct, why are 60% of college students in Israel women?
I don't think I ever said that. It's just something that happens.
M4TD sent $22. Enough of the demands to rape Steve-O. Let's rape Shabbos Kesselbaum instead.
Let's not, because he'll sue us.
Sandy G sent
Stop.
Where's the damn group chat?
If you signed up, you know how to get
Roy
there.
Red Swamp sent $20. Which Fishback interview has been your favorite so far? Are there any he's announced that you're looking forward to? Irish Roy Pants sent $20. Hi Nick. God bless you and your family. I hope you have a good weekend. Also check your PO box whenever you can less than 3 #IDHC. Noisy95 sent $20. Do you think the aspect of drone warfare footage has also changed toward? As in no way America could tolerate the demoralization of soldiers being blown up like the permanent war of Russia and Ukraine.
That's the dumbest thing I've ever heard.
Dodo Gambino sent $20. Palm Beach Pete is never beating the allegations. High Speed Sneeze sent $20. Hi Nick, did you consider military service yourself? Also, why do you think Ivan pulled us out of the landmine treaty? Thanks.
Why, so I could go die? Like, I'm not a big guy. Well, what am I gonna... What help am I gonna be over there? They'll be protecting me. I'm gonna go into a war zone. I'm 135 pounds. I'm 140. What good am I gonna be in a war? So unless I'm in like a plane or something, I could be a drone operator. What good am I gonna be in a war? I'm gonna be... I can barely handle life. You know, I hate working out. That's one, so that's out. I have trouble sleeping as it is. You're going to be sleeping while, like, bombs are going off around you. Can't do it. So there's just no way. No way that's going to happen. I also, you know, I can help the war in other ways. I have other talents besides, you know, running around and
Slimy Slithery
jumping
Sneego sent
around.
$20. Sneego needs prayers. Islam has warped the man's brain and turned him into a cold factory posting endless anti-American. Luker Place sent $50. Got your black and cameo American first hats and I got compliments on opening day at Cincinnati W. Grow members WD.
Let's go. Nice. Glad to hear that. That's good. No, don't tell me.
Hi, Steve Sneeze sent $20. Hi, Nicholas. With all the weird Shinzo posting, the official White House pages have been posting and then making a new app.
I don't know. It's just stupid nonsense.
Abby Homer sent $50. Hey, 2 years ago I sent a clueless chat not knowing anything. But since I found faith, attending church, considering Vatican visiting Catholicism, your influence on Gen Z is real. Thanks, Nick.
Hey, love to hear it. Great. That's awesome.
Hugs Nico sent $20. Why did you abandon us? Why? Edward Julian sent $25. 1 year sober recently and entering the church next weekend. Convert from Baptist. Hi for shaming me and alcohol. You to go.
You're welcome. You're welcome. I will continue to shame weed and alcohol. Contrary to all the weed lovers, less so alcohol. You notice the difference? The difference is if you tell somebody, hey man, you know, you drink too much. A lot of people say, I know, I gotta stop. Like a lot of people that have an alcohol problem, they'll say like, yeah, I shouldn't get drunk. Yeah, some people will not admit they have a problem. But with people that smoke weed, they're like, dude, it's better than alcohol, dude. I don't have a problem. It's not chemically addictive, bro. It's like weed people, and the problem with weed is they're also always in denial. They're not just addicted to weed, they're also in denial. They're also addicted to coke. Someone that's drinking alcohol say, I know, I gotta stop, I'm an obnoxious drunk. Someone that's addicted to weed is also addicted to coke. Oh, it's not that bad. Oh, it's not a big deal. Oh, it's fine. Oh, you know, it's just whatever. And I can, you know, you always hear the same stuff, so you're welcome. I will continue, and we will continue. We will continue to shame the weed smokers until they snap out of it. So, yeah.
Mitch Munch sent.
I'm glad to hear it. Good. I'm glad.
Sent $20. I work at Ford Chicago Assembly Plant. We love you. We just built him 1-1 Explorer for the Pope himself.
Yo! That's awesome. That's really cool.
Pittsburgh sent $20. What do you like fiat money? Would you agree that Austrian economics rather than Keynesianism is closer to the truth?
No, I would not. I would not agree to that.
Anthony Coronado sent $40. Hello, Mr. Fuentes. I'm 31, 6 kids. Welder with a song. Fuck these niggas saying need a woman. Did Jesus on his mission?
Oh, thank you for thank you. See, I was going to, but then you told me. Now I won't. Honestly, it's just so depressing. It's so depressing. Get married, have kids. Like, no. I'm good. No, thank you. Yeah. Well, thank you for giving me permission to not. Yeah. I said that in Telegram. It's like, you're going to be 30. All right, time to... You know what's funny? I posted on Telegram. I said, I'm getting to this age. I'm just getting old. I said, and it's all downhill from here. And I said, yep, time to find a slam pig and start worrying about my health. And people thought that was advice. People thought I was giving advice. They thought I was saying, all right, everyone, time to get married. And I was being sarcastic. I was saying, like, this is suicide fuel. This is rope fuel. Oh, I'm turning 30. Guess it's time to find my slam pig and start worrying about my health. That's like sardonic humor. I'm saying like, oh, great. Now I have to worry about joint pain and a stupid bitch at home. That was but people thought I was like a reformed man, like, and I was giving this advice. All right, everybody, all right. Time to grow up. And no, I was not saying that at all. I was not saying that at all. I'm being dragged, kicking and screaming into my 30s. People telling me that's the only way. I don't know. I don't know about that one, Chief.
$70. Kim Maga explained why Nick is getting hate for telling U.S. to vote them, when Trump literally told NYERS to vote for Cuomo.
Well, that's obviously different.
Saudi Grow Ember sent $30. Not joking, I just dropped my girlfriend and her friend off at a frat party. I asked if I could come and was told no. She went.
That can't be real. That's gotta be bait.
TM guy sent
No
$5.
way, that's real.
Thanks for repealing me, you son of a bitch. Now I can enjoy shows or movies without tuning out fuckface. Subfibular gave my 11 AJL sent $20. Trump is gonna throw JD under the bus on Iran. Same way Biden throw Kamala on border. His friends all want Rubio anyway.
It's possible.
Unity on Diversity sent $100. Forever. Remy emoji. R.I.P.
Thank you for the big super chat. Yes, people have told me it's been a year. Poor little Edward. I'm over it, honestly. So, yeah. He was a good rabbit. He wasn't actually very sweet. He was actually really, really annoying. I loved him. I miss him. I wish he was still alive. At times. But he was a little annoying. Not like he was waking me up all the time. He wasn't friendly. He was mean. He was not friendly at all. He just liked the treats. And so whatever. He was cute. He was a cute little bunny. And we had some good moments. But it was his time. It was his time to go. It was time. I wanted to watch TV again without him drinking out of the water bottle. I wanted to, leave the house without him eating all my books, which he did. And my vinyl and my furniture and my suitcase and my shoes and, like everything. So, my cables, my PlayStation, yeah. So it's like, okay, we're pushing it. We're pushing our luck here. Pushing our luck here, little guy. No, but it was very sad. It was a very sad night when he died. But then I was kind of like, you know what? Maybe the pet thing isn't for me. Actually. But R.I.P. Rest in peace. He was a good little boy. But in the end, these niggas are not cut out for survival. He was surrounded by hay. He didn't like the hay. It's like, really, bro? I can't help you then. You can lead the bunny to the hay. You can't make him eat it.
This guy punched 988 cent $20. My nigga got the Obi-Wan Kenobi shit on. Yada. Clack.
Okay.
Zach Challenge orders $250. CPAC. Stronger got energy. YMCA. Josh Hammer setting the tone with nasally lectures on the retard right. He said retard. Powerful speech by positive crowds and dozens. Water gun stations. Great habit is on deck. He won't be too long. He'll get caught in his wheels.
Thank you for the play-by-play. Appreciate the big super chat. CPAC is dead. Who even cares? When I was getting started, CPAC was like the place to be. 10,000 people went. It was huge. It was the hottest ticket. Now, people don't even give a shit. People are like, are you going to CPAC? I'm like, CPAC? It's in Texas. No, I'm not going to CPAC. That's a joke. I bet probably 200 people went this year. So, thank you for the big super chat, but yeah, it's over.
Triple B25 sent $20. Pretty please, O King of that Roiber. Tell us what happened this week. Why did you deprive your beloved disciples this? What happened yesterday with the stream ending the way it did?
Stop with the
Flops Crack sent $25. Hey Nick, I've been watching since 2022, and I graduate college this spring. I'm going to the seminary, and I've talked to the other seminarian brothers, and they all love you.
Wow.
Please pray for us.
Whoa.
Hey, congratulations. We will be praying for you. God bless. Love to. I hope they don't mind the show. The show's a little graphic.
Sneakhole sent $20. Snigger, Sneeko, thinks Hess on the team. Permission to rape him. Sir, even Tiny Nigger knows Hess a useless slam big. Color me impressed 67 cent $50. Regarding the current dating scene, do you think virgin men should settle down with non-virgin women? Personally, I believe yes, but the odds of finding a virgin bad bitch have to be so low.
Just do what you feel is right. I'm not going to... Why would I be the one to ask about this? Do whatever you think is right.
Sent $20. Hi, Nick. I'm new here, but I wanted to say that my friend is celebrating her 20th birthday. She's a huge fan of you. Her name is Gothi. If it's okay, could you wish her a happy birthday? Thank you.
Yeah, no.
Mountain 288 sent $20. Sodom has a disavowed. Mr. Bombastic Roar Penis sent $20. Glad you're still here with us. Thought those fuckers got you. Mythical Creature Roar sent $20. The S&P 500 is down 8% the past 3 months. Thanks a lot, Donald. Gold
Yeah, Bitcoin, S&P 500, we're screwed.
National Guard Roar sent $30. Christ is king. My Roy Pet fiance and I just got engaged. She likes the new merch.
I'm glad she's pleased.
He went up sent $50.
That's my goal.
1664 was a couple days ago, no? I've been waiting for it to upload and I have screenshots. Thought you got banned. Yet this notification is for it. Thoughtful face emoji. Also chat is full of retards. Roy Dubsky sent $20. Yo, man. My buddy is a Bradley driver. He said he's in a group of 10K mechanized infantry soldiers that are being sent over.
Wow. Well. A missile just flew over my
Spider
house.
sent $20. As a kid, did you ever try to buy an M-rated game and the cashier read the SRB warning to your parents? Like see my bro.
What are we doing? Within a stall. Remember we were kids?
Asian Women 4th Test sent $25. I have 4 buddies and 2 of them watch your show with me. It's been a year since Edward passed our IP. Will you get another bunny?
I don't think so. If I'm gonna get a bunny, it better be a nicer one. If I'm gonna get a bunny, it's gotta be a little nicer for it to be worth it. because this bunny did not like me. He kind of liked me, but he didn't. He never warmed up to me. He was such a spaz. So, if we're gonna get another bunny, it's got to be a sweet one.
Siagro Ivor 1999 sent $20. Glad you were back, Nick, and sorry you were feeling down. God bless and happy Friday. Hashtag free love.
Yeah, free. Well, he's free now.
$20. I don't know if it's a lie spread by liberals, but the rumor on campus actually is that Faith Merrill.
Okay, stop.
Spotting sent $100. Nick, again, please look into her math. He just had a beef on X with Chris Rufo. He encourages white people to get armed. They're suppressing his social media. I asked if his approach is different from yours. He said white people got no time to high power levels. I know rising is needed. Please.
Oh, right. And we're back. Yeah, well, we're back in hell.
My dad hates
Thank you for that, I guess.
My dad hates NJF. Roy sent $50. My brother and I can't watch you around my dad. My dad threatens to smash any device with your face or voice. You're at college, 18. At high school, 17 grow Ivers. America first nigga fuck maggot vote down.
That is so funny, man. Good for you. That is so funny. Dad, Nick Woods is awesome. That's hilarious. Well, hey, good for you guys. Hey, gotta hide your power level. Just hide it. Don't tell your folks.
I've sent $20. Pneumatic Turkic Treveus.
Yeah.
Peter Giddish sent $24. Have you listened to Bully yet? Ye is really back to his best. Have you spoken to him? Better yet, get him some Baby Bells.
Yeah, I gotta get him some Baby Bell Jesus. I listened to the listening part. He was pretty good. Here's the thing. He already released this album a year ago. Am I the only one that remembers that? I'm so sick of, like, the fans are always like, oh, Bully's coming out tonight. It's like, what do you mean it came out a year ago? Are we all going to play make-believe? It's like Men in Black. He put it on YouTube, dumbass. He put it on YouTube for, like, weeks. It was on Spotify. All the files are on Telegram. And people are like, Bully's coming out. It's been out. We heard it already. It's like we're all engaged in this, like, make-believe. We're going to force it like, oh, no, it's about to drop. Drop. We've heard these songs. So, yeah, I heard it a year ago. I liked it a year ago. I liked it last night. It's pretty good. So, yeah, I congratulate him on the listening part.
Blitzkrieg sent $20. Saw someone with a WAG license plate on my drive home yesterday, and it was a woman. The ladies love you. Gumble sent $20. Since Trump isn't deporting anyone and you refuse to work, I hired a guy named Hector at the Home Depot. We are launching Podcast Till America Primero. At least he shows up with his wife so's the merch. That's Kiki Cox sent $30. Makes Steve slightly uncomfortable by making imperceptible sexual advances, and then accuse him of being gay when he brings it up. White Gornick sent $20. Faith Merrill blocked me on Twitter for replying to pick me as crazy. I thought she was cool. Two motherfuckers sent $20. W America First. My favorite news channel. Generic Roy sent $25. Do you think Trump was corrupt from 2016? Or did desperation for a second term change his moral? Shoe Groy sent $20. Hey, first time super chatter. Thoughts on Dan Bilzerian running against Randy Fine for Congress? God bless. 07. Latin cross emoji.
Oh, well, I don't know if he's eligible. If he's going to run, he needs to establish residency before August, I think. So, yeah, if he's planning on moving, I think I would support him. But somebody texted me the other day. They said, oh, so you got to endorse him. I'm like, well, is he going to move to Florida? Because you need to move to Florida to do that. I believe he lives in Vegas. He doesn't leave. He doesn't go places to do shows and stuff. So he said that, and I was like, are you